Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the NMU Board of Trustees to order, and I would ask Secretary Andrew to please take the roll.
Trustee Young,
Present.
Trustee Hart,
Here.
Trustee Fatante,
Here.
Trustee Sepinen,
Here.
Trustee Holmquist,
Here.
Trustee LaPointe Dunham,
Here.
Trustee Lindberg,
Here.
and Trustee Toutant.
Here.
We have a quorum with all trustees present.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, we need approval of our agenda, so I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda and a second, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. At this point, we have a moment of silence, and I would call Dr. Dahlman up front, please.
James Tamlin of Sheboygan Intermediate School's principal, passed away on September 15th. Jim graduated from NMU in December 2001 with a bachelor's in social studies and secondary education, and was working on an education administration and supervision master's degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dahlman. Now call on President Tessman for another moment of silence, please.
Thank you, Chair Young. Former President Dr. James B. Appleberry passed away on October 21st of 2024. He was Northern's 9th president, and he served for 8 years, July 1983 to 1991. During his tenure as president, Dr. Appleberry formed the Northern Economic Initiative Center. He served as a member of the President's Commission of the NCAA, and he was the chair of the Division II Council. He helped establish the first U.S. Olympic Education Center for elite athletes. He launched a program for children of Northern alumni to attend Northern at in-state rates. He secured funding, importantly, for the Superior Dome. He helped create the Glenn Seaborg Center for Science and Mathematics, and of course, he achieved many other things during his tenure as president. Please join me in a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you.
Thank you, President Tessman. Thank you, President Tessman. Moving on to agenda item 5, individual requests to address the board. Secretary Andrew, have we had any requests?
We have not.
Thank you. Our next item is supporting Indigenous faculty and student success, and we have with us today three doctors, Dr. Kapla, Dr. Laporte, and Dr. Lindela, to talk to us about that issue. So welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Young. Good morning. My name is Dale Kapla, Associate Provost, and together with my colleagues, Dr. April Lindela and Caroline Laporte, we're going to talk to you a little bit today in a focused discussion about some of the work and some of the great work that we've been doing really over the last almost a year now. We're very happy that you invited us to speak today. Like I said, this is important work, and the concept around this is not new. Native-centered thinking and Indigenous ways of knowing on the campus has been here for a long time. And now we have opportunities to really advance that thinking. And the director of the Center of Native American Studies before Tyler Detloff, who we'll introduce here in a little bit, Marty Reinhardt and April Lindela have done a lot of work leading up to this point. And Caroline and April are just continuing that along with Tyler. Something that we've been talking about for years too is called Nasante. which is Native American Serving Non-Tribal Institution. We've been talking about that for years, and I will explain what that is in a little bit here. But a few things have happened to us to get to this point. And it's really the history surrounding Native thinking here at Northern, number one. And then, number two, it's calls for a grant. And for MyLeap and MyLeap at the state level, there are grants available for student success. And we heard about this this past year, and we decided why not go for a grant that would help us get to that native serving, the Nasanti designation. And I'll explain that in a minute. So what we did is we decided to go by what they call a 60 by 30 grant. And Governor Whitmer has an initiative, 60 by 30 in MyLeap, that says by the year 2030, 60% of college eligible population will have some sort of a degree attainment, whether that be a certificate or whether that be an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, some type of degree attainment. So what did we do? We formed a subgroup, or we formed a group to address and to try to apply for the grant. Okay, and I'm going to read you the group that we formed. It's a great group of people. It's a cross-section of the institution. And this group was formed early last summer, and the work that we've been doing really is forming around this grant and some things that we do with the strategic planning, which I'll explain in a minute. So the members of the group that we put together is Jason Nicholas from Institutional Effectiveness, Tess Sayan from Grants and Contracts, Sean Reese Butler and Justin Schopp from D&I, Carolyn Laporte, April Lindola, Tyler Detloff from Native American Studies and the Center for Native American Studies, Abigail Weish, Wellbeing, Erica Greeley, Admissions, Carrie Garcia, Admissions, Lisa Eckert in Graduate Education, Megan McCune in Sociology, Sarah Carlson in Social Work, Veronica Kusek in EAGS and Provost Fellow, Brad Hamill in Global Campus, Matt Franti in Finance Administration, and Chris Lewis in Business Intelligence. So we put together this group, and we started brainstorming ways around this grant. And how can we apply for this grant? How can we be a Native-centered institution? And how can we achieve Nasanti status? So as a result of this, April, Dr. Lindola decided and offered to be our grant writer. And April has a lot of grant writing experience, and she offered to be our grant writer. So we put together a grant, and we submitted it to MyLeap. And I just will say yesterday we heard some encouraging news, but I will tell you in the coming days or coming weeks, hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about what that encouraging news is. So those are the things that sort of happened this summer. And then what happened this fall? Well, our compass. Our compass happened this fall, and our Grand Challenge 1, Supporting Our People, led by Vice President Rhea Deaver. In it is Strategy 1.2, Nurturing Indigenous Perspectives, Programs, and Peoples at NMU. And so I ended up getting a phone call from Vice President Deaver, and she said, would you like to, since you have this group form for Nasanti and for the 60 by 30, would you be willing to be a strategy lead for this strategy? And along with Caroline. And I jumped at the chance. And so Caroline and I are both strategy leads. And so we've been doing a little work around that based on the group that we formed earlier for the grant. And so we took a subgroup of that, and we're starting to do our work for the strategy. So I'm going to turn it over to April now to talk a little bit about the history and sort of our structure here.
Miigwech, Dr. Kapla. Bonjour, Sego, April Lindola, Nandishnakas, Minogajeb. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here in front of the board and in front of my colleagues here. The history of the Center for Native American Studies, I'm really excited to share today, is our anniversary of the establishment of the center on December 13th, 1996. So I thought this was really exciting to be back on this day that the board conferred, at the time, Board of Control conferred that and made that a creation and a possibility for us here as an autonomous academic sovereign pathway forward as we look at Indigenous ways of knowing and being. Dr. Dennis Tibbetts at the time was our first director, Wind River Shoshone and White Earth Ojibwe. We are the first, since that time, we have offered multiple academic programs, but we are the first in Michigan to offer a solely dedicated, and that's specific for a reason, solely dedicated baccalaureate degree in Native American Studies. Our colleagues elsewhere offer a comparative approach, but we offer one because we feel that there is enough and more than enough conversation that needs to be had to honor Native voices and Native perspectives, Native subjects, to have our own solely dedicated baccalaureate degree. Our program is designed for students to be able to work in a range of areas, from tribal governments, tribal nonprofits, intertribal organizations at the national, regional, and local level, or in any other nonprofit or government entities that we have relationships with, such as a longstanding relationship with Michigan Indian Education Council, Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission as two small examples. I shouldn't say small, two examples, distinct examples. The Center for Native American Studies is distinctly situated to help with leading this conversation of what it means to be Native-centered thinking, because that is actually what we are training our students to do, Native and non-Native. What does it mean to ask us to be thinking about our neighbors, our environment, our businesses, our economics, from a Native-centered lens. And so we're training our students to have those conversations regardless of other disciplines that may be affiliated with, whether it be social work, education, psychology, biology, physics. So we're very, very honored to have received this news and speaking with Dr. Dahlman and Dr. Tessman about this being included in the strategic plan. Here to talk more about how the center can help us really hone in on that conversation, I'm very pleased to introduce our new academic department head, Carol Lapointe.
I like this. I gotta get up and then I'm gonna trip. It's gonna be embarrassing. Bonjour, Indigenous, everybody. Caroline Laporte, Mino Gajep, as April said, good morning. I'm very excited to be here with you all today. Happy early holidays. I myself am excited. It's Friday, exam period's done. All right, what we're talking about today is becoming a Native-centered thinking institution. And I will tell you, we don't have a ton of time to get into all of the logistics here. So if you were gonna look at the strategy that we prepared prior to this meeting, you will see all of the specific pieces. What I did was just pull together basically an overview, like an umbrella infographic here to give you sort of the bigger picture. So becoming a Native-centered thinking institution is no easy feat. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us. We are going to have some uncomfortable conversations, some brave conversations, and it's exciting that we're all in this space together, very committed to doing that. So I'm certainly excited to have landed at NMU for that reason. So one of the first things that we're doing are these bigger foundational elements, right? And you're going to see, I'm going to talk about those in a minute. The second is key programmatic work. Which is really work that we've already been doing. So we're just trying to think about how can the university take what the Center for Native American Studies has done, what its existing partners have done. Abigail, you're a really great example of this, right? And how can we scale those things up? How can we scale them up in a way that's not going to burn out 3 staff members? How can we do it in a way that's not going to burn out, right, the Native faculty on campus that aren't at the center? So really being intentional and thinking about that. And then identifying and securing funding paths. So one thing Dale already mentioned, obviously, hopefully we've got some exciting news to share with you all in the coming days. But certainly as well, what's the university's commitment to that, right? Okay, so foundational elements, what does this mean for NMU is the first thing. What does it mean for NMU to become a Native-centered thinking institution? This is that hard conversation, right? This is the conversation that we are all going to have to approach with grace. We all have to be willing to make mistakes. We've got to be willing to say the things that we don't know, understand and acknowledge our gaps, and move together in a good way to get there. Support from tribal leadership is really the first thing on the agenda. We cannot do any of the work that we are doing if we do not have support from the sovereign nations in the UP, within the state of Michigan, Wisconsin, and the related communities. Of course, it's a huge benefit that we do have KBIC member LaPointe Dunham on our board too. Written commitment from NMU, what does that look like? This is really, how do we take the Okanagan Charter, which again, NMU was one of the first universities to sign. That's a huge, huge deal. Also not, right, a small challenge by any means. How are we going to take that and then institutionalize it here with that Indigenous lens? This is that written commitment. So this is more about taking the charter, taking the pieces around the Indigenous aspect of it, and then really getting into the nitty-gritty about what the university's commitments are. To me, if I were a Native student and I saw that, I would say to myself, okay, this university actually has a plan for what it wants to do for Native students. It's not just giving me lip service. This isn't performative, right? So having that written plan also holds us all accountable. And then developing and adopting principles of relationship. This is something that Dr. Lindela, myself, Dale, everyone that was really, Tyler Detloff, everyone that was involved earlier in the summer in these conversations, we talked about, we've got this external facing document that we can develop, right? The written commitment from NMU that will signify to Native students, prospective Native students, and tribal leadership about what we're doing. But what does it look like to the internal NMU community? And so that document itself, this principles of relationship document, is what's going to hold us accountable to each other in a good way. Because again, some of these conversations are not going to be the most comfortable conversations to have. We might not all agree 100% of the time. That's also okay. Okay, and then our key programmatic work. This is super exciting. So April has already done listening sessions with Native students on campus. So that's done. That was like my little, just check, yay, okay. We would love to develop a roundhouse on campus. This is a larger conversation. Whether or not we can incorporate it as a high impact practice with our construction management group, whether there's whatever we're thinking about doing, right? Having that space to come together in a roundhouse setting, the physical manifestation of Indigenous thinking on campus would be incredible. Development of graduation requirement course, student and staff orientation element, the Native-centered spaces on campus. We'd like to see it expanded. The Center for Native American Studies is awesome. At least I think so. I'm a little biased, I will admit. But we've got couches, we've got art, and we have a ton of people in there all the time. So what we want to do is, how can we make sure that Native students and students who are interested in Native-centered thinking and faculty who are interested in doing that know about the center, can engage with the center more fully, more meaningfully, but how can we expand sort of the center's feeling, right? The way that what we all get from it to the outer NMU community too. And then revitalizing cultural programming of CNAS, which I'll let April talk about a little bit too. There's a long-standing tradition at NMU of supporting Indigenous programming. That was one of the other reasons I was really excited to come here. I was coming from the University of Miami, where we were just starting up a Native American and Global Indigenous Studies program. It was hard. There were a lot of conversations that I wasn't even included in, right? Which is why, to me, to even be at this meeting today is just such a great sign. But this university has done this since, April said, 1996. It has lasted, and it's continued to do its good work and has this really great through line. So we're just looking at what are some of the things that we've already done we can build on, right? We're not making empty promises. We've already got the framework for them, just things we know we can do already. Okay, and then identifying and securing funding paths. We've already talked about this, so I'm not going to get too much into it. And Dale and April, if you want to add anything here, please do. University commitment's going to be important. That includes for the grant. And then securing additional grant funds, obviously. So this, to me, as the academic department head, and Tyler as the center director, and Dr. Lindela, who certainly has a ton of grant writing experience, we're not looking at, okay, well, this is a one and done thing. The MyLeap was what we're going for, and we did it, or we're going to do it, and whatever, whether we get it or not. There are additional funding opportunities out there for us to look at, and we're going to be strategic in identifying and applying for that funding. So that's something that I think we're all committed to doing, and just wanted to reiterate, as we know, that's important too. Okay, I'm going to pass this back off to Dale.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, as our strategy, as we mentioned, Nasante. And what is it? Nasante, Native American serving non-tribal institution. What it means to get that designation is we need 10% of our undergraduate population identifying as Native, right? We're about halfway there right now. And so that's part of it. But part of all this work that April's talked about and that Caroline just talked about is we have to create the infrastructure for the students to come here. It's just like if we're going to increase our enrollment, we have to have this. We have to have the student success supports here, right? We want them to be successful. We're not just going to have them show up and say, "Well, okay, thanks for showing up," and they're just a number. We're going to make sure that they're successful. So all of this work really is built upon creating that infrastructure so they feel welcoming here, and all of the reach outs that we do to tribal communities and things to say, hey, we really mean it. We really mean it. And if you come here, you will be supported. So that is part of the strategy, and again, it is part of our grant. So really, in order to truly be an Asante institution, we have to have Native-centered thinking. And again, that's what all of this work is about. And we've been doing it a long time. We're good at it. We just need to expand it just a little bit. So I'll turn it back over.
So as part of the MyLeap funding, the proposal that I felt very close to and wanting to and obligated to write, considering my history here, I really wanted to tie the title of the initiative back to our compass, back to Always North, but really also securing something that aligns with the Anishinaabe medicine wheel, and that is north. The direction of north is tied to wisdom. How can we be strengthening our students' pathways north, not only in their academic career, but in their life trajectory of what that means to be on that medicine path and understanding both. So I was trying to think of a title and an initiative that would really both braid nicely together with what NMU has done with recent branding, as well as honor and acknowledge and recognize the Anishinaabes teachings of this territory. So as a couple of points, one of the things you've heard us say is the need and significant need for tribal nation support. It's one of the first things that we brought to the table in our discussions. And so a number of folks, Dr. Testman, Dave Nyberg, Dale, Caroline, did go to United Tribes in October to speak with a number of the tribal nation leaders at that time. And we also did receive tribal support in our letters and that were able to be sent in with the grant. Not only from tribes in Michigan, interestingly, but also tribes from Wisconsin. So it was good to see tribal support from the region. As Caroline mentioned, I did host listening sessions with Native students. As part of the consulting for the grant, I strongly believe that Native American student empowerment and any initiative that we build has to have Native student information, because I could come up with the best idea in the world and Native students could be like, no, not today, thanks. So I really wanted to lean on Native student information and their minds and their experiences to help with guiding me and serving as a beacon as I wrote the grant. So our Strengthening Pathways North initiative is what I've named it, and it is centered on also training staff, because I also did an informal listening session with a couple of our student success advisors. And unlike our faculty, they commented that they don't have the same level of professional development opportunities that faculty do and have written in the contract. And so being able to provide initiatives within the grant to provide our staff with support was something that they said, yes, we would definitely make time to do this and have buy-in. And so that was also very important for me to get staff feedback on that, because I think, again, I can come up with a great idea, but if it's not supported and an investment from the staff, it could be hollow, and I didn't want that. One of the things that I did with writing Strengthening Pathways North is I looked at all of our compass, and instead of solely looking at the first grand challenge, I thought, how can we address all three grand challenges in putting together this initiative. So one of our outcomes is certainly looking at how can we be identifying opportunities in Indian country to build relationships and support high impact practices. So that isn't another grand challenge, but it's one that I thought was something that we already do with our Native American, longstanding Native American service learning class, and that's now called Native American and Community Engagement, but certainly aligns with what Dr. Dahlman's hope is there with high impact practices. We did put in for additional staff. We'll see how that goes. And naturally, I think what I would first say about, or what I would last say to close here is, on this slide is, I asked the question, if we don't get the grant, are we still doing the initiative? And there was a hearty yes. And I think that was really also very much my motivating factor in saying, all right, the grant can be a tool, but that this is actually a philosophy that the university wants to put forward. And in my long time here, this was really refreshing, and it's a blessing to be here at this time. One of the things, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but this is kind of a visual representation of the examples of the work that has been done in the past to make those alignments with other areas on campus, whether that be art and design, whether that be the STEM fields, whether that be social work. We have success in many of those areas. We have a lot more opportunity beyond the examples that are here. And that certainly is going to come from vibrant faculty and staff. We've been blessed with having that in the past. Some of you may be familiar with Dr. Reinhardt's Decolonizing Diet Project, which still has momentum. He just picked up another 30 cookbooks the other day to say, I can't keep them. So, you know, we're really seeing the long-term ripple effects of a project that's already 12 years old, still moving with great momentum into the future. So that pertinent research is something that our faculty within Native Studies can do. But again, as Caroline mentioned, how do we scale up and out with that? And of course, with our two new staff people, one of the commitments that I made the argument for with longevity and stability is that this position used to be held by one person. And now it is two designated people, our academic department head, Caroline Laporte, and Tyler Detloff, our center director. And I made the argument in the grant narrative that this is a sign that Northern Michigan University means business, to be able to say we are adding another administrative person and voice to the table to help us with this leadership, not only for the center, but for campus and community. I'm going to hand this over, I think. Somebody's turn, I think.
I'm happy, you know what, I'll do it. I'm happy to do this one. Native students on campus are obviously, right, the big priority in regards to a Nasanti designation and certainly to the MyLeap funds. That doesn't necessarily, though, preclude everyone else, right? So it's much more of an inclusive approach that we believe is going to benefit everybody, right? A rising tide lifts all boats, that type of thing, right? When you bring people in from the marginalized spaces back to the center, everybody benefits from that. And so I think we could all, I hope that we could all agree with that. Ooh, did I do something? Okay, I'm sorry. I did that. It was magical. Okay. For the past 5 years, I thought this was really cool. We have had 55 distinctly named federally recognized tribes recognized by our student body. So what does that say to me is that it is not just students from the UP. This is students from all over the country. Now, there are 574 federally recognized tribes, so I think that we can get that number a little higher, right? That's a little bit of a gap. But specifically, it's not just even Anishinaabe students that are here, or Sault Ste. Marie tribe members that are here, or KBIC members, or Little River members that are here, right? It's a broad array of students that are coming from other tribal nations who are likely in spaces like Four Corners, where we're competing with ASU, or maybe we're competing with the University of New Mexico, for example. The state of Oklahoma has a lot of really strong tribal programs. Downstate, there's some stronger tribal programs too. The fall of 2024, we had 135 Native students, 209 students who identified as mixed race with Indian as one of their selections. We're still focusing on this data and working with institutional effectiveness to figure out what this really means, what it might mean in terms of who our incoming classes are, but also what it means when students stay, and more importantly, what it means when they leave. Part of that zero opportunity gap portion of the R Compass, right, is understanding what it looks like for a student who comes here to try, for a student who comes here and maybe struggles a little bit. How do we get that student to graduate? We have to be very intentional at looking at the Native student body and figuring out what that means with specificity. So what we're doing at the center, though, is focusing on belonging, on connection and community, on academic success, particularly graduation rates, availability of cultural practices, high impact practices in line with Ane Dahlman's focus too, and then student well-being, of course, in line with our other pillar. The center is absolutely a home for Native students on campus. We hear this all the time. We love to hear that, actually. I think part of what makes our job so fulfilling is that we get to engage every day with these incredible human beings who trust us, not just with their education, but with their development into a professional space. And so to me, that's like a big gift, actually. NMU has reiterated its longstanding commitment to our faculty and staff, obviously in our programming through our compass. I think we all just wanted to take a minute to recognize that and say at Chimigwech, like a very big thank you to all of you. This means a lot. As April said, I think it's a really cool time to be at NMU, especially as a Native person. Okay, so what can students find at CNAS? Present faculty and staff. We've got a little spirit garden that we've started with traditional medicines. All of the tribal nations' flags are present from this area. Traditional medicines, on-campus fire sites. We've got tribally focused resource library, and then academic and community support. We have a new pavilion. Oh, we also have a new pavilion that is being constructed over the fire site that Tyler Detloff has been leading and working on pretty tirelessly with the construction management students. So that's really exciting. I think they just did their presentation too, and I heard it was a big success. So. Did you want to do this one? You go for it. All right, great. High impact practices, I'll go through this quickly. So we've got connections with national organizations for internships. I think this is another really big benefit of the center is that we all have our own relationships, whether that is with professional organizations, national not-for-profits, other programs, pre-law programs, law programs, medicine programs, et cetera, right? Really kind of thinking through what our network of people are, what our relationships are, and how can we connect our students in a good way, in a kinship way to those people. I think right off the bat, the organizations for internships that we've identified for students, NAB, so the Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, NIWRC, the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, which I come from, STARS, Indigenous Safe Housing Center, the Strong Hearts Native Helpline, I'm actually the chair of their board, tribal coalitions in the area, Uniting Three Fires Against Violence, NCAI, the National Congress of American Indians, certain housing groups, Indian Country Today, which is a media group. We actually had Mary Annette Pember, who is like a renowned journalist, come with us on a water walk. And so some students were able to connect with her in a really cool way too. Connections with professionals, court and law experience. So far, I've only had like a student take me up on this, by the way, but court's open, right? So if I have an open hearing and a student is interested in pre-law or they're doing something like that, they're certainly welcome to attend via Zoom. Research with faculty, classes with practical applications, and then service learning and community-based learning, which I think the center is really all about. That's kind of at the heart of what we do in our space. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of these. I know we don't have a ton of time. Sample of community events that we've done so far to really sort of bolster what the group has been working on. This is just this fall. 7 Grandfathers unveiling. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to see those stats. Yes, okay. Ooh, it looks like everybody has. Great. That's amazing, right? So we've done 2 events there. Decolonized diet programming. We did the Wild Rice Camp, campus-wide powwow, Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations. We did the Indigenous Perspective Symposium in partnership with Sean Reese and Justin, which was an awesome opportunity. And then the Water Walk, which was the field trip I was mentioning. And then we also did KBIC's Garden for Heart field trip, April and I did, which was great. Okay, I'm going to pass this over to Dale.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. So what type of future do we see? Obviously, Native Center thinking across the university, right? We're building that infrastructure, and you can see that there's a lot going on. There has been a lot going on, and that's just going to expand. There's some programs that we currently have that we don't have anymore, and that is the Elder in Residence program. We want to get that going again, and that's all part of it. Continued art and advocacy. We just had the symposium not too long ago, the art symposium. That's part of that as well. Caroline mentioned a roundhouse. That is part of the grant. That can be part of our strategy as we move forward. We're looking at a tribal leader advisory board, and of course, more commitment, I guess, and more continued involvement for CNAS across the university. So these are some of the things that we're looking at. In terms of a former dean, and I think he's not the only one that said it, but he used to say all the time, hiring is one of the most important things that we do. And there's no greater example of that than the folks that we hired this past summer with Caroline and Tyler. When I first met them and they came on campus, it was like I've known them for years. And they have really picked up the work and really moved forward with it. So it's very exciting. They're super student-centered. That's what we need. And then together with April's wisdom and the other faculty over in NAS, I mean, we're going to do some really, really good things. And irrespective of the grant, we're going to keep moving forward with this because it's part of our compass. And this is something that is really, once I got into it, this is something that really kind of grabs a hold of you. And I can see just endless opportunities for this university and for our students. So I'll open that up to questions now, if there are any, or some discussions. Thank you.
I think everyone's waiting for me to turn on my mic. Thank you for the presentation. It sounds like a lot of really fantastic initiatives. You've talked about this grant. What type of funding are you expecting or hoping to get from that?
Could be anywhere. The upwards amount of it is $1 million over the course of 3 years. And so again, once we've got the more specific news to share with you all, but I think the ceiling to expect would be that, and then of course they can always adjust it downwards if they need to. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Yep.
I think one thing too that's been really neat to see the integration of native-centered thinking in the strategic plan piece, and so I think it was very intentional to make that align together. So that's neat to see.
Thank you, Greg.
If we could ask, on the grant, if that doesn't come through, what are our options if the grant doesn't come through?
We can continue to look for more funding opportunities in terms of some of the things that we want to build out, and that may be external. We can look to some internal monies as well to do that. And there is a commitment right from the university that we're going to move forward with this, and so we're pretty optimistic about the grant. But as Caroline mentioned earlier, there are some other funding opportunities we can pursue as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, President Tessman. I think one of the really great things about the center too is that we do have, April's a full professor, right? And I myself am an associate professor, but we also have real world, right, like a grant writing experience. I think both of us have written numerous federal grants and have gotten numerous federal grants. And those grants are often a little bit larger too. So I would just say, and I'm not trying to make promises, right? That is definitely not what I want to be doing. But we at least have, yes, of course, no problem. It's a family. We've at least got, right, the experience of individuals who know how to get the funding, right, that is more geared towards these types of initiatives and who have been successful at getting that funding. So I think that we're all very committed to doing that. And, of course, like grant funding opportunities, they come year over year, right? So I think the hope is that we just continue the momentum, and certainly with positive support from the university administration and from the Board of Trustees is much appreciated as we continue that endeavor.
I guess one of the questions I have associated to that is the grant gets this off the ground.
Yes.
Okay, then what about the ongoing support? Is that continued through grant writing or university support? How does the ongoing process work?
Is it okay? Caroline, April, Dale?
We're good.
Okay,
We're
yeah, I don't have a specific response to your question. I think, however, this was mentioned earlier in the presentation. My approach to this, and I think our leadership approach, Anne and Ria, Sean Reese, others in the room, is that the work is there in front of us, and we're committed to doing this work. And actually, those lists and the projects, it may expand beyond what's up here already. So the commitment is there. The pace, how much we're able to tackle in year one versus year two may depend a little bit on resource availability, both external and internal. But I think if we wait and we sort of make our forward progress dependent on specific tranches of grant funding coming in 1 year or maybe another year, I don't think we're going to be able to proceed like intentionally and strategically. So we're going to do this. We're going to be really aggressive. We have a lot of talent and commitment on the campus to secure external funding. So I believe, I'm really confident we'll have a lot of material support to enable us. But in the areas where maybe the university needs to say, you know what, there's not material support external, we're still going to commit to this internally. That's my commitment. And I think that's what we have to do if we want to make real progress. Otherwise, it'll be halting, and then during the times we don't have the funding, we'll slide backwards. And so I just think that is the commitment.
Yeah, and I think that's good to hear. I mean, because I do think, grant funding can be, like you said, you start and you stop, you start and you stop. And I think that's a discussion, as a board, we probably need to have about that commitment. I look forward to, having that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just echo April and Caroline. It just feels great to be a Native person and a part of this, and what NMU is doing. My grandfather, LaPointe, was a Native American outreach worker for Michigan Tech in the 1970s. And then my mom took over that role in 96 when CNAS was established, worked side by side with April here at Northern. So just to see the foundation that was laid and now where we are today at Northern is just really great to be a part of.
Can I ask a question about that? I know what a roundhouse is. I do know, but can you expand on that? I mean, one of the things I've been struck by is that the center in Whitman does feel to me like it very much is a home for our students and actually for our faculty and staff. So, and I know the pavilion is going up. Where does the roundhouse kind of fit into this? I mean, and actually kind of literally, where do you envision it fitting in? And then also just the importance of physical presence and infrastructure on the campus. Any more thoughts on that in particular?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that because I've attended and been at other institutions that have these roundhouse structures that are as part of the campus community. One of them is Fond du Lac Tribal College over in northern Minnesota, just south of Duluth. And then also Laurentian University in the greater Sudbury area. They have rooms that are two-story structures with fires on the inside of the rooms that allow for a roundhouse, a circular style seating, and that really is mirroring what traditionally in ceremony one would practice as far as coming together. And as Cree scholar Sean Wilson says, research is ceremony. I try to abide and strive to abide by that. And I think that we can be doing even more of a replication of that if we had a roundhouse structure. I'm going to vote for Whitman Hall, but that's because I'm a little biased being over on that end of campus with our fire site and feel very connected to that space. But having that as a teaching space, a learning space, a ceremony space, a home space, I think would really mirror and reflect the teachings of this particular territory.
I will second the Whitman Hall suggestion. The other thing I would say is it's just a physical manifestation of Native-centered thinking, right? So, and to me, it's a visual marker. It's a really good visual marker for Native students, but also for others of what's a different framework for approaching decision-making, for approaching community issues, for like all of these big conversations. So even Leslie, is Leslie, hi. Leslie's strategy is civic learning, right? So what can a roundhouse mean to what Leslie's trying to do, right? What can that look like? There's so many different, to me, applications of what it looks like to do Native-centered thinking sort of across all of the challenges. And I really think that a roundhouse is sort of that first initial physical step. It brings everybody together. It's intergenerational learning. It doesn't assume that somebody's more important than another person. It reminds us to bring good intent into this space, right? When you go into that space, you can't go in there with certain things, by either emotionally, physically on your body, right? And it gives us this opportunity to just say, like, leaving everything outside, how can we recognize the humanity in each other and actually do the good work that we're supposed to be doing together? So to me, the Roundhouse is really like mission critical. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you. And, as was pointed out, this is a historic day. 28 years ago, we established this board approved the Center for Native American Studies. And so it's so appropriate you're here today talking about this. And I mean, it's my hope that 28 years from now, they'll be talking about this day and what we did with Insante. And so hopefully we have some synergies going there. So thank you all for being here and spending some time with us. So.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're now going to take a break so we can have our Academic Affairs Committee meeting. We will reconvene this session at 10:40, but before we do break, I wanted to point out there's a book that was placed at our spaces yesterday that we got, and this came from the D&I office from Justin Schapp, who works for Sean Reese, and this was one of the 2025 selections for the Diversity Common Reader Program. So hopefully everybody gets a chance to take a look at that, and thank you, Sean Reese, for bringing that to us. So we will take a break and reconvene at 10:40 after the Academic Affairs Committee meeting. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the NMU Academic Affairs Committee to order. Present are Trustee Lindberg, Trustee Sepinen, Trustee Toutant, ex officio Chair Young, ex officio President Tessman, and other trustees are present that are not participating. First on the agenda, we have Dr. Jamie Crabb, the Chair of the Academic Senate, to give us an Academic Senate report.
Madam Chair, could I make an observation? Jamie looks a little bit different today than we saw her yesterday.
Wondering if you were going to say that. I was wondering if you were going to recognize me.
Oh, we are.
You have a lot younger.
Yeah, I'm not 78 anymore. Yes, correct. Well, so first of all, I want to thank you guys for your support of the Academic Senate. I just want to point out my report is kind of short and sweet this time. So we have 12 revised programs that went through, 3 new courses that were added, 15 revised courses, 2 course deletions, and 1 program deletion. So again, I just want to stress that we are actually deleting things that are lying dormant. So just to make sure that you understand that we are trying to be fiscally responsible as well. The 2 things that I want to talk about. So we are working on standardization, and let's see, Josh Santiago is working with Curriculog, and we're going to do a rollout to try to change the process for course changes, program changes, and additions. One of the things that we found in Senate, we see a lot of people that comment on little formatting issues, that I really don't want that to take the time of Senate. So I think that this program will be really nice. So we are in our 2nd review phase right now. So hopefully during the winter semester, they will go as a group to Senate and present on the Curriculog. So I think that that will be a good thing. The other thing that I wanted to just mention, so as we're seeing a lot of changes in the Academic Senate, some of our smaller departments are definitely voicing some concern. As programs change their programs, a lot of them are going to recommended prerequisites, and they're not required prerequisites. And so some of our smaller courses, such as communication and media studies, economics as well, there's definitely concern over those courses going to elective as opposed to required. So I just want to make sure that we are consciously supporting all of our departments across campus and that we are consciously thinking about that as we make decisions, so we support our smaller departments as well, because we wouldn't have gotten here to our 125th year without all of these departments being here. Questions?
Back to the standardization. Are you talking about what's happening now and like putting another subcommittee in to screen before they get to the Senate? Or
So it's actually not a subcommittee, but it's using a form of technology, a program, so that everything that's put through will be put through in the same way, which will help some of those formatting questions, those concerns
Got it.
that I think take up time that we really don't want to spend valuable Senate time on.
so if somebody is submitting something and the program kind of says, oops, they then themselves have to work out how to put it in the proper format.
Actually, there will be examples for them to make it really easy to ensure that it stays consistent. The biggest thing that we've seen is that people use older bulletins when they put their course changes through, which then causes a lot of problems on the back end as you're looking at it and it's not the correct bulletin.
And I went to a couple meetings and I saw that there was a lot of dialogue with the registrar, and that's what you're addressing here. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Maybe one question on the grief policy.
Okay.
I know that you guys are you still working on it?
So we are still working on the grief policy. So a format of the policy came to Senate Exec. However, it was discussed that the policy needs to be a university policy, and one of the sticking points related to that was related to the term spouse, as that is not necessarily the most up-to-date terminology, and that the policy for the students offered more coverage, I guess I would say, than it does for the employees here at the university, which was concerning as well. So the AAPC is taking the proposal back, and we are trying to get it so that it is a policy that is agreed upon by undergraduate programs, graduate programs, and across the university. So Jill Compton has gotten involved with it as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I want to thank Dr. Crabb, but not just for the Senate report, but for yesterday. We toured the nursing sim labs, and she was a patient, acting as a patient, and I feel like if, you don't want to do the nursing, what about the theater? Because it was awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming to that. It was nice to get to highlight our nursing sim lab. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Casey Holder to give us a report on the charter schools.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So in the memo, this is definitely just an update. We have no action at this time. So 5 updates. First is the reauthorization memos will be coming to you in the spring for 2 of our schools. JKL Bowding and Nottawash have both done their written applications to my office, and they've done presentations, and so we're transitioning into kind of what I call the legal season, and so we start working with our school attorneys, but both of them are progressing quite well. Number 2, sometimes you promise things, and I had mentioned I was going to bring a 1-page dashboard as an example, and I see some smiles. So for those of you out there, I didn't bring that forward. So the performance framework revision update has been put on pause. A couple of reasons why. First of all, in June, I had the director of curriculum and assessment retire. This fall, we ran an ad that was unsuccessful. And so in January, I'm going to be running a new ad to try to find a replacement for that position. We obviously had elections in November. We had legislation updates that I'll talk about in just a minute. And one of the biggest reasons is I'm the one that was actually trying to push a revision. There's no external agent that's telling me to revise anything. So I just kind of put it on pause for now. So this next year, as the next 6 months unfold, we will obviously pick that up and keep you well informed in the spring and definitely in the fall. Number 3, legislative updates. The Senate bills 93, 4, 6, and 7. As of yesterday at about 10 a.m., were questionable, maybe not even going to go through. Well, this morning at about 2 o'clock, they actually did go through in modified form. And so about 8 o'clock this morning, I got my updates with the updated language on those 4 bills that are pertinent to the charter school sector. The bills, in terms of the way they've been rewritten, are not anything that I don't see as very difficult to implement. They predominantly are focused on educational management organizations being more transparent on their funding. So that's really not even our wheelhouse at all. It's just kind of making sure that that happens. The one that there's several that do apply to us, and I know that I mentioned this in the past, but one of them is that we have to make sure that representatives of the authorizing body attend at least half of the meetings, either via virtually or in person, and we already have people attending those meetings, pretty much all of them, and it's unusual if we don't have somebody attending virtually. One other quick example of something that we don't do that's in the bill is that at not less than 2 times per year, prepare a report detailing the authoriser's efforts to provide oversight to the school academy. I would assume my school academies would probably be able to already tell you what some of those efforts are, but so now we have to formally go to one of their board meetings and say, hey, these are the things that we're doing for you. So yeah, there's going to be, there might be some subtle changes in the way that we do business, but like I said, those still have to go to the House. If they get approved, they wouldn't be enacted until probably March or April. So there's some time before we even know if they get approved and how they would apply to us. Number 4, we have no new board members since September. And lastly, we do have the dashboard packet included in your memo from me. A couple of quick highlights. As I mentioned there in the comments, we had no reds in the academic growth, which is outstanding. And in the achievement, we do expect yellows and oranges, and there was some yellows and oranges in the achievement. And remember, achievement is a lot more related to kind of where the students come in, and we really strongly advocate for growth of our students. And those growth colors were definitely yellow, green, and purple, which is something to be proud of. Financial comments. As historically, the NHA schools, the Burton Glen, South Point, and Walton, those 3 colors, the orange, yellow, and red, are all connected. And those are areas that this new legislative set of bills might change because, having a low fund balance at the school level is a red on our performance framework, but that might change if the ed management companies have to be more transparent and transfer more of that money or let more of that money sit at the school level. So that's an example of why I didn't want to push an update on the performance framework, because if those legislative bills go through, that's an area in which our framework would change. 2 that I wasn't expecting were yellows in the financial area for JKL and North Star. A quick note that, one of the things I love about this job is I get to learn things, such as a significant weakness is less than a material deficiency. In my brain, significant would mean more, but both of those schools have significant weaknesses, which is I wouldn't say minor, but it's less weighted than the material weaknesses. And in both cases, they had to do with the superintendent and having second eyes look at signing things. And so they were both relatively minor in terms of easy fixes for the schools. Organizational comments, the reds have already been addressed at the school level. One of them was getting their board information packets into our warehousing system. And so the school is just missing submitting stuff to our system, which then amounted to a red. And so, in other words, our performance framework did what it's supposed to. It showed a something to be cautious about, and we've taken care of it. So those are the 5 updates. Any questions? Yeah.
Casey, the one that I had, I didn't understand, and I'm looking for it here as I was flashing through. Oh, come on. Of course, as soon as I get off. Let's see here. It's the statewide accountability. How well does the PSA meet the state accountability? And then on some of them, they have 2 boxes with 2 different colors.
Yes. I forgot to mention that. So the statewide accountability in our performance framework is how well they is what they get on the school index. The school index is, for lack of a better phrase, the report card for the school. And when you look at the school index, there are, you get a number on that. So say you get like a 70, but the other areas in which you might get down marked are, there's one that says additional targeted support versus comprehensive support. And those support systems are based upon if you are in the bottom 5% of test scores in a variety of different categories. Yeah, and so one of the classifications is like the worst is comprehensive support, and that means your overall school achievement is dropped to the bottom 5% of all schools. Well, our schools, there's 2 schools that we have that fell into what's called additional targeted support. And in both of those schools, they had received their subgroup of students with disabilities test scores fell into a lower bracket. And when that happened, it automatically signals that school as a targeted support school. What it means is they get informed by the state. They have to put together a plan that they're addressing the issue, and once that happens, it goes forward. It's not like a partnership school, and knowing that you've been in education, you may have heard that phrase. So it's just it's a categorization where the schools are informed of a deficiency, if you will, and then they have to address it as a plan. The reason why there's 2 scores, just a sec, the reason why there's 2 colors is because if they didn't have that, the one color that had the number in it is what they would get on our performance framework. So off the top of my head, South Point is, I'm looking at Burton Glen right here.
South Point right now.
And
77.15 with orange.
Which is, so the purple's outstanding. I mean, that's among the hot, when you get an index score over 70, you're getting into really good index scores, but they have that targeted support, and on our performance framework, you get an orange because they're targeted. So it's something to pay attention to because, yes, they have an issue and they have to take care of it. But overall, their school's doing rather well.
Could I ask that, and I look at the dashboard as something that we are supposed to be using to see how well and understand how well they're doing. Is it possible to do like a footnote when that kind of complicated thing happens, just to let us know what's involved with it? Because I looked at it and I had no clue what any of this meant.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an oversight of mine. I should have even thought of that because that's the 2 colors is confusing. Yeah. So I own that for sure.
The other thing is I'm just noticing that the reading seems is that, before, if I recall some of the earlier past years, math was an issue. And now it seems like reading is starting to be an issue?
So perhaps. And so coming out of COVID, there are trends that might be leading towards lower. There's two things in that area. One is that there might be trends leading towards lower test scores in reading because kids might not be reading the ways that they were reading when the tests. So the types, this is just me thinking and talking. The types of tests that cover reading are different than the kinds of reading that kids are doing more and more of these days. So my sense is that the tests need to be revised to start to better reflect the types of reading. So when you're reading on your phone, the types of reading that you're doing is less like the tests that are testing reading. And so I personally think that our reading tests are lagging behind that. That said, the math tests have kind of been the same, and they are kind of starting to improve.
Okay, so it wasn't just me, yes, and you said
Yeah,
that
I would
hopefully it'll be
say,
addressed.
yeah,
Okay,
I would say in general.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Keith, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just two questions, Casey. From a charter school's perspective, do you get new requests at all to sponsor?
Absolutely. About 2 to 3 times a year, I'll get requests. And in general, what happens with that is the first step is to talk to the person and find out, who the person is and why they're requesting it, what kind of resources, background support they might have. And there are statewide initiatives that I can kind of create avenues for those people. A lot of times they just kind of disappear. And so ultimately what happens is I'll usually say, well, we'll have a good conversation and then we'll think about it, you think about it, and then we'll touch base. And if we get to the second or third conversation, that's when we start to get more vested in potentially looking at a school. So absolutely, I get those kinds of calls and move them forward as deemed necessary.
Okay, so Northern's poised for some growth if it's viable.
Yes.
Yeah, super. And then my other question, how many students from our charter schools go on to enroll at Northern?
That's a very good question, and that's hard to answer because the vast majority of our students are K-8 students, and we lose them. We don't know where they go until they eventually possibly come back and get categorized as a student that had attended one. I'm happy to announce that JKL Bowding is potentially pursuing a high school. And so one of the things that they have been upfront with us in their application stage, and I was waiting to share that, but since you asked about the matriculation, they're poised to think about it. And so they're starting to gather data as we go through this reauthorization cycle, looking at what would it be like if they had 15 to 20 high school students, because we do know that some of their students come over. The downstate schools, less so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Holder. Appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
Next on the agenda, we have a presentation on internships and work experience with Ms. Katie Corpy and Dr. Dale Kapla.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Dale Kapla, and I'm here with Katie Corpy, Director of Career Services, and our graduate student, Bailey Gomes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about internships. I'm not going to talk that long, and I'll turn it over to Katie. And we really want to get the perspective from the student and get Bailey's experience to you. So recently, Career Services came over to Academic Affairs fairly recently, and what a great partnership. I mean, we've had partnerships and synergies before they were in Academic Affairs, and now we just have more. So it's just absolutely fantastic to have them in Academic Affairs. So going to talk a little bit about internships. We have different titles for these across campus, right? We have internships, work placement, practicum, et cetera, student teaching, et cetera. I just want to let you know that when it's any experience that a student does that's really outside of Northern, right? They go to a workplace, they can earn academic credit, maybe not earn academic credit, and it's sort of an experiential experience. Back in 2016, 2017, the HLC, Higher Learning Commission, our accreditation, back when we were an AQUIP school, we had to do action projects. Some of you may remember that. One of the action projects that we chose to do was to really do a wholesale review and shoring up of our internships and work placements, whatever those titles we want to call it. And so we did. We embarked on that endeavor, and we came up with these definitions. And these are really in compliance, with the Department of Labor as well. And so we have these different types of internships, if I could use internships as being sort of that all-encompassing term. We have NMU arranged, we have paid internships, we have student arranged, we have unpaid internships for credit, not for credit, et cetera. And so we wanted to categorize all of these so that we could keep track and that we could show the HLC these are the type of experiences that we are giving our students. So part of categorizing all of the internships really was saying, hey, we need to come up with an official way of legally having these students be in these areas. And so we have these things called affiliation agreements, and it's a legal document. And it must be signed by the agency in which the student is doing the experience at. So for instance, for UP Health Systems, we have an affiliation agreement for that. But we only need one. So we only need one for UP Health Systems, and it encompasses all of the experiences that students have. You may imagine for our nursing program, for example, how many that we need. Even for education students and the student teaching, how many that we need. So we have hundreds. We have literally hundreds of them, and we have a database of them, and we keep getting new ones all the time when students come up with these experiences. Or in Katie's area, we identify areas for internships and things. And so we work with different agencies all the time. So we did a snapshot of how many of these internships that we do every year. And I just used this calendar year. So back in winter of this year of 24, we had 41 internships. So that's in concurrent with the semester. So there were 41 internships. In the summer of 24, we had 33, and this fall we currently have 36. If you see, that is exclusive of the education and the student teaching and student placement. And you can see just this year, we had 177 students placed for education majors. And if you see nursing there, nearly like 200 students or so, nearly all of them are doing some sort of clinical placement every semester. When you see lab, if you see course listings and you see lab listed in nursing, that is essentially an internship. And so we do a lot of these. And we're getting students that hands-on experiences. So student requirements for an internship. It really varies by department. If you're doing something for credit, really the hours that you work or do at an agency generally equals to some sort of credit. One credit may be 40 hours of work, et cetera. It may count towards the curriculum. In nursing, we have that, of course. In education, we have that. Other programs on campus we have where an internship placement needs to be part of your curriculum. Others, we don't. Others, it's general elective credit. We have, when a student does an internship, they do work with a professor, or oftentimes they work with an internship coordinator who's identified within the individual department. And we have learning agreements. And so we just don't send them out into the real world and say, here, go work, and then we'll see you at the end of the semester. We do have objectives, course objectives for that experience. And they also have to agree to that. Students have to agree to that. There's certain accomplishments that they have to do. And they have to check in with their internship coordinator, or at least their professor. And of course, there's evaluations from the agency of the student. And of course, we have the evaluation of the student and how well they did in their placement. So some of the challenges and opportunities that we have with internships, Student time. We'd love to do more internships. I think there could be opportunities. There are opportunities for more internships. But students just don't have a lot of time. They're working, they're taking full schedules, they have family obligations. It is an intensive experience for them in some instances. And then student costs. We can get internships away from Northern or maybe from their hometown, but again, they need living expenses and they need to stay somewhere, and it's a cost of living that may be a barrier. So, but some of the opportunities, and we have some exciting work going on with workplace learning, and Katie will talk a little bit about that as well. But we can build these things out to make it better for our students. And so it's like integration of the coursework that happens in an internship, integration of the internships into the coursework. So we can keep talking to departments and saying, how about making an experience part of your curriculum, right? So they go through and they can do this and it can be part of their graduation instead of being general elective credit or maybe no credit at all. And of course, you've probably heard of the work scholars, and there's work-based learning where it is integrated in the curriculum, and they do go to work and they do get paid, and they also earn academic credit for it as well. So pretty exciting stuff. So I will turn it over to Katie, the Director of Career Services. She can tell you a little bit about what she's doing with her team.
Hi, everybody. So we're really excited. In our office, one of the things that we've been working on is trying to streamline the connection point from making sure that there's kind of a one-stop shop. There's a really organized method in which we post opportunities through our work-based learning, our career and professional development platform, Handshake, but also the faculty and the departments are all coordinating things really beautifully as well. But we want to make it really streamlined, and so we're working on some unpublished web pages right now to basically make it easier for employers who might be interested in doing work-based learning with the institution but just don't know where to go or who to talk to. So, and the same being true for, our programs have really, really wonderful internships and work-based learning built in, but if the student wants to go above and beyond, set themselves apart, maybe add something, that they can maybe seek out those employers that might be interested in reaching out to them. So we've basically started the process of looking at the different stakeholders and trying to provide an avenue to make the process a little more intuitive to find out what options are available. So all of this is unpublished right now, like I said, but it's something that we want to continue working on and building, especially if we see it to be a high value add, which we think it will be. So the key idea is that it guides and supports everyone through the process, and that it's not something that's strictly automated, that you do have a human connection, but if it's 7 o'clock at night and you're panicked because you want an intern, you can find some guidance on that and then get connected with our office or the right people, depending on that process. So for this, I thought it would be best to kind of talk about the employers. So if you're an employer and you click on the employer, the gold box to see the employer view, then you start being guided through a survey that kind of asks you some questions. Do you have a job description? What type of project are you trying to work on? Is it something that's going to last an entire semester, or is it maybe more project-based? Because we find, and other institutions find, that a lot of times employers don't realize that there's so many ways to, as Dale was saying, label, that work-based learning, that it might be an internship, it could be an externship, a co-op, a job shadow. It could be so many different things. And if you just have something that requires a few hours versus an entire semester commitment, we want to still help link you. And so that's kind of the step that the employer gets guided towards with this process. And our hope is that they'll actually work with our office directly and talk to us, as opposed to just going through the survey. But the survey would alert us that somebody has completed it, so that we can still reach out and there's still that human connection, and making sure that we're kind of guiding that a little bit more carefully. So one of the things we wanted to dive in a little bit more is the space that hasn't been really looked at as much, that could just be a little more polished, and that's kind of the project-based learning. So an employer might want to bring a project into the classroom. So what we're looking at doing is adding a page for faculty and classes that are willing and interested in entertaining work-based learning opportunities. with their contact information. So if an employer says, boy, I'd really love to work with GIS students on a mapping project, they can find, maybe the course that best suits what they're looking to align with, and then they can kind of reach out to that faculty member and make things happen. So this is still, as I mentioned, kind of in process, but something that we think could be really exceptional to provide better guidance in the area of all areas of work-based learning for campus. So, yeah. And then I don't want to take time away from, so Bailey is an exceptional student. I think many of you have met Bailey before, but we really want Bailey to share their experience and on campus with work-based learning, but also the big opportunity that's coming up, and we're just so excited.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, just like Katie said, I have been so fortunate enough to have really amazing experiences here. I've met most of you at some time or another, but for those who don't know me, I'm currently a graduate student in the biology department. I've been at NMU since the fall of 2019, and in that time, I would say that my experience here was basically entirely driven by experiential learning, learning outside of the classroom. Now, don't get me wrong, my classes were obviously very instrumental in getting me to where I am, but it was the stuff outside of that that really set me apart. What Katie was kind of alluding to is that I only have one semester left here, but it's going to be a remote semester because I have accepted a job with the Mayo Clinic at their main campus in Rochester, Minnesota. Thank you. It's my dream job. It's the place that I've been talking about for years, wanting to work there, and now I am about to move and go do it. And the reason why is because of the experiences outside of the classroom that set me apart. When you're in, especially in like a scientific background, I think that having a bachelor's degree or a master's degree becomes the standard. Everybody has that, and while it's important and it's good and that education is so essential to what you're doing, when you're looking at candidates for a job, it really is the things you do outside of your degree that sets you apart. My cover letter, when I was doing my interview, the interviewers brought up my cover letter and how it really showed a lot of personality and showed a lot of really unique things, because in my cover letter, I exclusively talked about these things that I've done outside of the classroom. So just to name a few of those things for you, I have 6 years of laboratory research. I've been doing it since I arrived here. I worked in the Center for Student Enrichment for 7 semesters, 3.5 years, and it's been a wonderful job that I've had so many unique experiences. Many of you have probably seen me speaking at lots of other things. I run Platform Personalities, the group that brings speakers to campus, and I know a lot of you guys attended John Green last January. That was something that I was able to plan and develop and put on and interview him as part of the things that I'm doing outside of classes. That wasn't relevant to my degree, but it's things that I was able to use to supplement that and to have these super unique experiences. You may have also seen me doing things like being on the dance team. If you've seen any of those performances or dancing in the parade, things like that build teamwork are so essential. All of these different experiences I've had, especially things like the Student Leader Fellowship Program and Superior Edge, both of which I completed during my undergraduate degree, they've all gone into developing me as a person, as a candidate, and as what I feel is a good representative of what NMU has to offer. I've really taken the full advantage of everything that I can since being here. I do recognize that my experience probably isn't the standard, but it should be. Everybody should seek out these opportunities. The reason why I have had these experiences is because I was self-motivated to do that. And that's where I think what Katie and I have been talking about with this dashboard, this is something that's going to help students do that. A lot of students are not as extroverted as I am. They may be nervous to approach a professor and say, hey, I want to work in your lab. How can I do that? They might be nervous to try something like a leadership program or to volunteer. They might be nervous to seek out an internship, because a lot of people are afraid of not knowing what to do. They may be first-generation students like myself who are sort of figuring it out for the first time. But this is a resource that I think will be very useful to students, because they'll be able to seek it out, look at the available things, and actually implement some of those experiential learning type things, and they'll know what's available to them rather than just, being scared to ask. And that's the thing that like really will get the ball rolling, get them asking questions, get them coming to talk with Katie in Career Services and say like, hey, I want to do an internship, but where do I start? All of these things I think should be the standard for students. We just have to help them get there. I think that's most of what we talked about. If anyone has questions, please feel free. I've never done this before, but I see everybody saying I'll take questions now, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Anybody?
No, fantastic job. I think we're very proud of everything you've been able to accomplish. And I certainly, with the career pathway options and internships, it's exciting to see the community outreach to be able to give different unique experiences to the student population is wonderful to see. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dale and Katie and Bailey.
Right,
Oh,
one more.
I'm sorry, Steve.
And this, this may be a hard number to come up with because experiential learning can be so many different things, working in a lab or working as an intern. Do we have any idea what percentage of our students who graduate from Northern have had the opportunity to have that one or more of those experiences?
The percentage, I don't know. But in terms of our student teaching, I mean, it's one of our largest majors is education. So they all have to do student teaching in order to be placed.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. And so I don't have a percentage total, but we do, obviously we keep track during the semester and things. So I know that the number of internships has increased since we did the initial survey in 2016. By percentage-wise, I can't give you that.
And do you count things like working in a lab, doing?
Not normally. If that is part of the curriculum, then of course it's part of the curriculum.
Yeah, but it's still a hands-on experience.
Sure, if they're working in research, like if they're a freshman fellow, or if they're working in extra research on a grant or something with a faculty member, definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think also, if I may, when we work with students to develop their resumes, we're asking lots of questions and making sure that's evident on their application materials. So we want to make sure to exemplify, yeah, you've worked in a lab, you can use these tools, you can do that, I can't. It could be disastrous if I did what you've done. But we also, as a part of the strategic plan, where we've started reaching out to departments and asking the question to see if we can figure out the best way to track a little bit more of that information so that we have some sense of what's happening beyond kind of what's officially recorded. Because we sit with students a lot in career services and find that they've got great experiences that are just not credit earning. And we want to make sure they know to report that, to mention it, to talk about it in their job search.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is really important. I'm glad you brought this to us. This is awesome. And Bailey, congratulations on your job at Mayo Clinic. That is great. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. With that, we're a little off, but I think we're okay. I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Only over by a few minutes.
Okay, we're going to reconvene this meeting of the NMU Board of Trustees. Continuing on with our agenda, and our next agenda item is number 17, and that's recognitions. And I would like to, at this time, call up Vice President Jeff Corpy for a presentation.
Chair Young, members of the Board of Trustees, President Tessman, one of the special components of tomorrow's graduation ceremony is the student speaker's commencement address. I'm pleased to introduce the student who was selected to address the graduates tomorrow, Miss Susanna Gwynn. Can you please come join me?
Yay.
I get the distinct pleasure of embarrassing Susanna for just a second.
Please do.
While Susanna is a Marquette native, she spent most of her childhood traveling the country by RV and living in both the Sonoran Desert and the North Carolina Piedmont. Susanna came to NMU in the fall of 2022 as a transfer student. Susanna's father, David, who's with us here today, first earned his Master's of Science in Nursing at NMU, and after a lifetime of hearing how much David enjoyed Northern, Susanna knew she would be in good hands. She will graduate magna cum laude tomorrow with a degree in nursing. Susanna's favorite experience during her time at NMU has been working in the Nursing Technology Center on campus, something we all got a chance to witness yesterday. As a student employee, Susanna helped set up all of the labs and simulations for the 200 students in the NTC program. Susanna was promoted to lead clinical supervisor due to her excellent job performance. In that role, she created all media informational materials distributed from the NTC and led all other NTC employees in the setup of labs and simulations. When asked what makes NMU special, Susanna stated, the professors. They truly care about their students, both inside and outside of the classroom. At Northern, you're not just encouraged, but celebrated to be more than one thing. After graduation, Susanna plans to work in an intensive care unit and pursue her ultimate career goal of becoming a certified registered anesthetist. The theme of Susanna's address tomorrow is about how who we are is the combined effort of everyone we've known. We got a chance to see Susanna in action yesterday in a simulated cath lab, and when we stepped out of that, well, while we were in that, let me say, she was throwing words around like STEMI, ST elevations, myocardial infractions, thrombolysis, and seriously put on a clinic to those that had the chance to witness this. She was reacting to real-time changes being made by Julie up on the screen and displayed tremendous confidence, command, and just you could see the expertise that she's gained here at Northern shine through there. I walked away and I mentioned to Brock that heaven forbid something were to happen, I'm confident knowing that somebody like Susanna's in the world, and that we have folks like that in our community that would jump to action. So it gives me great pleasure to congratulate Susanna Gwynn for being selected as the December 2024 Student Commencement Speaker.
You got to stay up here. And then maybe we're going to invite you.
Yeah. Before we get to pictures, I just want to reiterate what Jeff was talking about. That sim lab was really wild, and I came away from that thinking that I want her on my care team. I know that if I ever have problems. So thank you for sharing with us, and I've gotten to know you over the last couple of days. It's great, and we're having your parents come up, Renee and Dave, so we can get in this picture when we present the plaque. So welcome back to NMU.
Just a great run for them, and so proud of her and very thankful. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Okay, that's exciting stuff, and we're looking forward to hear what Susanna has to say tomorrow. Okay, at this point, I will call on President Tessman for another introduction.
Okay, thank you, Chair Young. And it is definitely my distinct honor to briefly introduce Matthew Jennings, who's been selected as the Student's Choice Award recipient and who will have the opportunity to provide our commencement address tomorrow. And give me just a second, Matt, you're on the hook still. But we will have a chance for kind of fuller recognition and some photographs, etc., this evening at a reception in your honor, as well as to honor our honorary doctorate recipient. But I wanted to take this opportunity just to make it clear to the board and those watching and those in the room that, in my estimation, this recognition is right alongside any form of recognition that we can offer a faculty member at Northern Michigan University, and it's because it comes directly from the students. In my time here, this is actually now my third December board meeting. Diana Lafferty, Stacy Boyer Davis, and now Matthew Jennings. I mean, you're certainly in good company in recent history. I know that the list of recipients extends further back, but to be recognized this way by the students who've worked with you and by the associated students at Northern Michigan University is really tremendous. Matthew Jennings is an associate professor in our School of Clinical Sciences. You are the program director for Clinical Molecular Diagnostics, and you also are the director of the Graduate Program Committee, and importantly, you head up the Upper Michigan Brain Tumor Center, the UMBTC. Some of you in the room, of course, know about the good work there. And I don't, of course, know exactly what plays out in the classroom, in the lab with you and your students, Matthew, but I do think, as I read through your bio, it's really impressive to see the way in which you brought your private sector experience across the board in kind of patent development, different laboratory settings. And I know that shows through in the classroom, and it helps your students. We heard from Bailey Gomes about the way in which the sort of practical applied learning that she experienced here at Northern paid off for her. We certainly know that in the clinical sciences, just like in the School of Nursing, the way in which students get out and learn in the field and learn from people who have field relevant experience makes a difference. So we're looking forward to further recognition of you this evening, and of course, looking forward to your commencement address tomorrow. But if you don't mind, in this moment, please stand and be recognized. Thank you, Matthew Jennings. Really proud of you. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, President Tessman and Matt. The next agenda item we have is our moment in NMU history, and we call forward Dr. Russ Miyagi, please.
Okay, thank you. This morning the title is Preserving Northern's Past. Recently, Northern Magazine 125 Years was published, whose creation was overseen by Rebecca Tavernini, Christy Evans, Zach Nichols, and an excellent staff of Northern faculty and students. The outstanding celebratory publication has been well received by the campus population, alums, and the community. How was the creation of this book made possible? The process of saving Northern's past has gone through iron, silver, and golden ages. In the early 1970s, when President John Jamrich was seeking an author to write a 75th anniversary history of Northern, members of the history department refused to get involved. For a number, it was a concern as to where the sources were to be found. The result was that Miriam Hilton of the English department took on the project, which resulted in her publication, Northern Michigan University, the First 75 Years. Her work ended the Iron Age. Hilton had a Herculean task of gathering information as there was no university archive. So she relied on what was available at the Peter White Public Library, the Marquette County Historical Society, and through oral interviews. Lydia Olson created the Iron Age preservation. An early alumna, she became librarian in 1908 and held the position till 1941. In her quiet and persistent way, she fortunately saved records that came her way. She had maybe a file cabinet, certainly a drawer where she would stuff items that came along. The first historian, Francis Roy Copper, developed a manuscript history based on interviews with original faculty and administrators created for the half-century celebration in 1949. He passed before the celebration and never saw his book published. However, this manuscript was fortunately saved and has been published. Also on the scene was Don Bottom, former Dean of Students, who wrote Happened Long Ago, which had limited distribution. Across the campus, in hidden spots, were a variety of artifacts, many of them piled on the false ceiling of Lee Hall, covered with dust and long forgotten. In the Bird's Eye building were the plaster statues of Abraham Lincoln and St. George that were preserved because students sealed them with many coats of paint and turned St. George into Superman and Lincoln into a hippie. Nationally known maritime painter Leon Lundmark's magnificent painting of Lake Superior was found dumped in a back room of the library, resting on the heating system. Saved, it is now part of the DeVos Art Museum and has been restored to its original condition, which I guess is quite beautiful. In the 1980s were the dawn of the Silver Age. The Central Upper Peninsula and University Archives was created by Dr. Clifford Meyer of the History Department and developed from a series of tiny office rooms to the facility we have today. He spent years working to enlarge the space, gather and organize materials, and fight President James Appleberry, who was not happy with the idea of the archives covering the Central Upper Peninsula. Meyer successfully persisted, and his experience can be found in his history, The Archives Project, 1966-1994. The Golden Age began in the 1990s with President William Vanderment, who saw the value and need for further preservation. He officially created the position of university historian, and it was my task to find those missing artifacts, develop a series of oral interviews, and generally put things in order. He sent me downstate to interview former President Edgar Hardin and former Dean Don Bottom. By the way, both men passed within months of my visits, but we have their recollections. Since then, all presidents have been interviewed, along with many people in the university community. Probably that figure is probably about 150 people from the community have been interviewed. More recently, archivist Marcus Robbins, working with Annika Peterson, has developed a grand project of digitizing newspapers and making items, including photographs and oral histories in the archives, available to a worldwide public online. Artifacts had to be preserved as well. In the early 2000s, alumnus Dr. John Beaumier and his wife Mary Jane, through their contributions, the Beaumier Heritage Center was created, which not only preserves artifacts, but brings Northern's past to the public through well-received exhibitions as the one that's on display today, and which I encourage you to visit and further learn of Northern's wonderful 125 years. Remember, much of Northern's history is available on your computer through Uplink NMU. We have reached the beginning of the Diamond Age of saving Northern's past with the publication of 125 years. The entry of the Archives and Heritage Center into renovated Hardin Hall in 2026, and the complete revision of the NMU Encyclopedia by Dr. Diane Cordage to be available online. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Always enjoy hearing your moments in history. Thank you. Our next item is the number 9, the ASNMU update. And I'd call up Dana Hinckley, who is the president of ASNMU. Dana, welcome.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I have a short little presentation with lots of pictures for you today, to give you a little break, maybe. So we're going to continue this semester by working on our bereavement policy. We've hit some bumps in the road there, and but they're good, good revisions to this document. So I'm looking forward to getting that passed. I know we've been talking about it for so long, but that's how it is. We also applied to the Green Fund for our bike share program, and if that gets passed, we will be able to purchase some new bikes and hopefully get that up and running in the fall, so that's exciting news. We're also looking for donations to our grad closet. Right now, we're just trying to figure out the logistics of getting alumni and other people to donate to our closet. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do that by next semester. And then we're going to continue our social programming with students, connecting with them in various ways. And also something on our radar that we're just starting to dive into a little bit is looking into a mental health day for students. This would be just like any holiday that students get off. I don't really know how possible that is, but we're just starting to dive into that right now and see if that's a possibility. Just like Spotify Wrapped, I don't know if you guys are familiar, I did a little ASNMU Wrapped with some photos. So we had our Wildcat Farmers Market event, and I know I talked about that with you guys a little bit before. That was a really successful event, and we're definitely going to be doing that again. We also had our Trunk or Treat event. Thank you to President Tessman and Jeff for helping us out with that. It was really successful. We had a big turnout for that one, and it's always good when you get to connect with the community. And we also had Halloween painting as a part of that event, and also a costume contest open skate. That was all in one day, actually. A lot going on. And the open skate was great. There was a lot of people that were really into it, as you can see from that picture up there. We also did a collaboration with Wellbeing, and we hosted a Uperlight hunting event with our, what is it called, like the Uperlight flashlights, the UV lights that we have to rent out, just to kind of create awareness of our rental program that we have, and also we wanted to connect with students in a way that was off campus and getting to find Uperlights, which was really cool. We also worked with a lot of organizations for Green Friday. The Eco Reps organization approached us with this idea, and we were really happy to jump in and offer our career closet for that. And we also worked with the food pantry and Ripple Effect. And so basically it's like Black Friday, but with free clothes, free resources, and students can come and take whatever they want. We had a lot of people stop by that day, and it was really cool to see everybody come together. We also had a bracelet making event, and in this part of this event, we were collecting student feedback. A lot of students stopped by to make bracelets, and we almost ran out of bracelet making supplies, and we got a lot of good input from students there. Whoa, those are really tiny, sorry. So what's on students' minds? On-campus employment, I know that's on a lot of people's minds. The students are starting to notice the short-staffed areas on campus, especially in dining, and we just really need student employees. The 2024 election, it seemed to cause a lot of stress on campus, but it was really good. We got people to vote. We had I didn't have pictures of this one, but we hosted a voter registration event, and we had 30 plus people register to vote with their on-campus address, and that was just in the couple hours that we were there. So that was pretty exciting to see that. We also have people that have been concerned about student safety. They're talking about the hazing policy and how it hasn't been updated in a while, and then also that students want to see an easier or more transparent process when a safety concern is expressed. And this has come up in multiple different committee meetings that I'm on. So I thought it was important to include that on here. The period project that we have, it's been a huge success this semester, which is great. However, we have been noticing that our products are going really, really quickly, and there's a severe need for period products on campus, whether that be areas for students to purchase them or to get them for free, because we'll stock it and it'll be gone within a week, and there's 50 products in the bathroom, and that's gone in a week. Well-being has been doing a great job on campus. I know this semester has been particularly hard for students with Thanksgiving break being a little bit late and the election stress. But I've noticed that Well-being has been doing a great job in getting involved. And I see them in Jamrich on Wednesdays and talking with students all the time. So that makes me really happy. Winter activities, as usual, students need more activities in the winter. I wouldn't say more, just they like the winter activities. So we've got some events planned. ASNMU has some events planned that we're excited for. For example, we have our Wildcat Field Day coming up in the Dome. We're working with Rec Sports and the Special Events Committee. Yeah, it's really exciting. And then I just included our photos again of the assembly. I also included our secretary. I know she's not here, but I just wanted to give her a little shout out, Kit. She's been doing a great job, so if you happen to see her, she's probably working her butt off over there. And we have a couple new assembly members as well. We've got 3 Bens all in the Academic Affairs Committee. But thank you so much, guys. Are there any questions or anything?
Any questions?
Comments?
Maybe just a comment from my side. I thank you, by the way. This is probably one of my favorite parts of our formal board meeting is hearing from ASNMU and what's on the students' minds. I really also like the addition, and I think this has been for the past year or so, the what's on students' minds. It really gives us a lot of clarity into what to be looking at and what to focus on. I love the idea of the mental health day. I think we had a design thinking workshop a few years ago. Okay. We had this idea, a pause day, PAWS, playing on PAUSE. Yeah. But I think there'd be ways to incorporate, whether it's a well-being day and incorporate, I don't know if we're still doing the pick one, physical activity, community events that people could volunteer just to get into a different headspace too, if that's what they choose to do. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys.
Other questions? Looks like we got some more here. So.
Yeah.
I love the grad closet idea. I know you guys are working on figuring out a space for that, but are you accepting donations right now? And I think there's a great opportunity to get the community involved. I know a lot of leadership individuals who'd probably be happy to make some donations.
Yes, we are looking for donations to our grad closet as well as our career closet. The grad closet is
I'm sorry. It was a career closet.
I think I got it mixed up as well, too.
Okay.
But yeah, so we are looking for donations to our career closet. And I mean, in any way, right now, I have some conversation going with the foundation to see if we can get some in to try to get people to donate that way. There's not really a good way to do it, especially when you're talking to alumni that live downstate or anywhere around the United States, so.
Well, maybe we can connect after the meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm also very interested in any way we could help support the period project. I really think that's an important piece as well.
Yeah.
Could you expand just a little bit on your safety concerns and the transparency issue there?
Yes. So I'm part of a well-being subcommittee of students, and a lot of the things that we've been talking about in that committee are like safety concerns on campus. So there's people that have concerns with like the transparency and process of like Title IX, and then also like the stress that's being put on RAs and CAs on campus because they can't handle everything. And so a lot of times when they go to them to talk about issues, it just doesn't get resolved because they don't know what to do. And it's not really their fault because there's just a lot on their shoulders. So it's just kind of like a messy process, but that's kind of what the whole concern is. As far as the hazing policy goes, that's something that one of our assembly members brought to our attention, and I don't really know many details about it right now, but we're still discussing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Just one comment I had on the shortage of workers, and I'd like to maybe explore that at some other time with ASNMU about, what the reasons might be for that. Whether it's people just don't want to work in the cafeteria or whatnot, or it's pay, or if it's the hours. It'd be interesting to know more about that.
Yeah, we do have some some projects in the works, I guess, as far as that. And I'm excited. It's a little like insight into like a social media takeover essentially with dining. So I'm excited for that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks.
Um,
Thank you.
Okay, well, moving on here to item number 10, and that's our Tyler Thompson, our president of TOP, is going to give us an update. Tyler, welcome.
All right, I don't have a fancy slideshow. Maybe next time I'll bring like pyrotechnics. I don't know. Okay, thank you everyone for yet again including the Staff Labor Council as a part of this meeting. It's I think very important that we are here and that we're able to give you an update and let you know what's going on and what might be issues and what's going well, what's not going well. So again, thank you for having us up here for that. Okay, I want to start by saying thank you to every member of this board, to Gavin, to Matt, to Brock for the payment that came out for all staff members. I can't begin to describe how important that was and how big that was. It was outstanding. So, Rhea, you as well, thank you for facilitating that, for putting that through, for showing the commitment and support to staff. It's just yet another way that Northern showing its commitment to its staff members and reinforcing its commitment to staff who is here day in, day out to ensure that students are taken care of, that faculty, staff, administration are all taken care of. So thank you sincerely. I want to go into a few things that the Staff Labor Council has been able to do because of things like this one-time payment, because of the communication that has been built. Steve, thank you for meeting with me on Wednesday, for establishing those meetings. Brock, thank you for establishing the monthly meetings. It's opened up a lot of avenues for us to yet again get issues out and to try to go over some issues that can be resolved outside of contract negotiations, and so far it's been extremely successful. So far, even for this past semester, some of the things that we've been in on, Katie mentioned a sub-council for the Wellbeing Committee for students. There's also one for the employees that we've been working on, finding some solutions, creative solutions to help staff kind of feel more involved on campus and feel taken care of on campus. So we'll be submitting some, I think we have one more meeting, and then we'll be submitting a couple ideas to the main Wellbeing Council to help the staff here and faculty here on campus to feel integrated more so than they are now. As part of that communication that's going on right now, we as unions have felt more now so than in a long time comfortable bringing issues up without fear of retaliation. That has been an issue for a long time, I think, and now so we don't feel that fear anymore. So we've been able to actually dig into some issues, and you know, for myself, for the TOPs, we've been at a meeting with Renee Sheen not too long ago in HR, and we were able to resolve an issue for an employee. Simply, it didn't have to go to a grievance, it didn't have to go anything past a short 15-minute meeting. And that employee walked away grateful and feeling heard and taken care of. So let's see here. I'm lost in my notes here. Give me a second. Feeling comfortable in our own skins here, again, with that communication, we're able to, and with the payment going through, we're able to, the Staff Labor Council anyway, has been able to start looking at creative solutions for career progression. There's not a clear path for employees, staff specifically, to feel like they have a clear path forward. So we're able to actually divert attention to that now instead of having to worry about wages solely. So that's another great bit that we've been able to start working on. Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the communication as well. It's something that I can't hit on enough. I can't touch on enough. The amount of communication that's coming from top down, and really bottom up as well. The fact that it's going both ways now, and it's been opened up. Please let that continue. Build on it. Again, the meeting I had with you, Steve, and the meetings that Brock, you and the union members have. Greg, the coffee and chats that we have been able to have in the past, they're great first steps. And if any board members want to continue and do coffee and chats, we're always open for that. We'd love to meet and chat and go over some things. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, please let me know.
We got questions? Tyler, I appreciate your comments, and I hope that board members will take him up on that. And he's very open to grabbing a cup of coffee or sitting down in his office or in the CODIS building, and take him up on it, because I think it's a good that all of us have that contact and can hear what's on your mind, and you're very amenable to doing that. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Have a good day, guys.
Okay, our next agenda item are committee reports, and we'll start with the Academic Affairs Committee, and we'll call on Trustee Fatanti.
I think there's one. Brock.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that, Brock. No, I flipped the page here, sorry. It's hard to get good help these days.
No, that's,
Okay.
I'm sure many
Back up.
people were excited about the possibility they were going to skip this
okay.
item. but, yeah.
Go to the President's report. And then we'll call on Brock, President Tessman for his report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Young. And I do appreciate the opportunity to really just pick a few items to focus on. I'm always careful in this report to note that it could be 3 hours long. I mean, there's so much that we could highlight for the board about what's happening on campus. So I'll kind of give a high-level highlight, and then I think a really fundamentally important highlight, and then some individual stories. The high-level kind of highlight, I think, is pretty visible around campus and across the community, but we really were honored to welcome back to campus one of our most well-known alumni, Howard Schultz, who graduated in 1975 with a communications degree, and it had been some time since he had been back to campus. He did come back to campus as part of kind of a small group that was just getting some updates on some of the big objectives that we have. But during that visit, Howard, I think, was really struck by the interactions he had with our students and our faculty, some of our coaches as well. But really, it was the student interactions that moved him. And so really, as a result of that visit, it was unexpected, but Howard and his wife, Sherry Kirsch Schultz, said, look, we're really happy with where Northern's at. We're really happy to reconnect, and they provided us with a gift of $1 million to be split between athletics and student scholarships. But really, it is all about the students. The money, in rough terms, will be used for scholarships to support first-generation students attending Northern Michigan University. And then on the athletics side, kind of a mix of funding, but to support opportunities for student athletes who have different needs as part of their time at Northern. And then some support for really an academic champion, someone who will work with our student athletes given their unique situations and make sure that they're progressing successfully as students so that they can continue to succeed as athletes and then ultimately achieve their degree at Northern. So I hope we have a chance to welcome Howard and his family back to campus in the very near future, and really excited to kind of build on this relationship. Of course, at the end of the day, the most important thing we can do is support the students who've decided to make Northern their home. And I've shared with the board, and I think our campus gets some of these data as well, but data around persistence and retention continue to be at record highs. And just last week, I saw the most up-to-date numbers Of course, we look often at retention rate, which is that percentage of students who start in their first semester and then come back for their third semester. So kind of first year to second year retention. And that's exceptionally important. That's a big moment of potential attrition, and that rate is as high as it's ever been. The last recorded rate from last fall was 78%. I believe we will be north of that number headed into next fall, and we'll keep momentum building there. It's just part of the story, though. Retention is just that one marker. Persistence is one semester to the next. Of all the students who have unfinished business at Northern, in other words, who have credits remaining before they achieve their degree, what percentage of those students are coming back, regardless of what semester they're in? And last week we got numbers, again, all-time high. 91% of the students who have some unfinished business at Northern are coming back for the next semester. And I think that is most pleasant because it means that the students are feeling that they have the supports, they have the tools they need to succeed here and get their degree. It also is important because it affects our bottom line. It affects our enrollment, our budget. It allows us to continue making some of the investments that we're making. So we're really excited to see those trends headed in the right direction. And it's you talk about the three-legged stool. It's kind of a four-legged stool in my opinion. You know, first and foremost, you think about a sense of belonging and purpose that our students have on campus. That's just kind of the student life experience, the Northern student experience. Some of it's in housing and residential life. Some of it is in the Center for Student Enrichment. Some of it is in peer-to-peer programming. It's just that baseline experience. That's one leg. The second leg is their work with our faculty. One of the defining things we hear from students as they are here and they leave is the extent to which they work directly with their faculty mentors, their professors. And I think that creates such a strong anchor for our students. It's one of the reasons we're seeing these success numbers. The third leg, I think, really is our Student Success Office. The way that we've redesigned our advising system, embedded those advisors with academic departments. Board, thank you. I think it was about 5 years or so ago that you really kind of served as a catalyst for some of those changes. We've built on them, and I think that that's a big part of the success. And then the last one, unheralded, is the way that we're now sharing data. We have an ability to get kind of early warning indicators now with students. We talk a lot about the care team on the mental and emotional kind of well-being side, and the care team is now catching students earlier in some of their challenges, and it creates more opportunities for success. Well, alongside that, we have these kind of early warning mechanisms on the academic side. Faculty are able to provide data to the Student Success Office. Those data are often shared to other offices, and so we're really seeing progress because of all four legs of the stool. So we'll keep you posted. Right now, the projected overall headcount increase for the winter term is 4.7% up over last winter. Those numbers are always in flux. We'll wait and see and get back to you in January, but that's certainly a positive sign. I'll just wrap up with a few individual highlights. One kind of at the student level, and this one brings me great joy. 3 NMU Quiz Bowl squads traveled to Houghton in November. I think that there's an accredited institution up there, but to compete with 3 Michigan Tech teams for rights to bring home the Superior Cup, and our A team, in fact, did finish in first place with an undefeated record in Quiz Bowl against their Michigan Tech counterparts. And so and I don't know Josh Pletcher, but he scored 72 Quiz Bowl points, which I understand is an astounding total. So major congrats to that team. On the faculty and staff side of things, again, the list could be endless here, but I want to highlight Dr. Sarah Middlefelt. Some of you know Sarah. She's been chosen as the recipient of Northern's 2024 Peter White Scholar Award, and during her year as a Peter White Scholar, she'll focus her research on biofuels and BTUs, the development of Upper Peninsula forests as energy resources. A great example of how faculty research is connecting to some of the things we're doing institutionally. Yesterday, you heard from Kathy Richards and Jess Thompson in some informal conversations about kind of energy transition and the potential to maybe begin relying more heavily on biofuels. And some of Sarah's research, I think, has been really instrumental in informing the ideas we have there. I don't want to miss the opportunity to recognize our own Dr. Sean Reese Butler, Assistant Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion. one of 6 humanities leaders elected to the board of the Federation of State Humanities Councils. The Federation advocates for increased investment in and engagement with the National Network of Humanities Councils and supports the work of civic health and cultural vibrancy. So congratulations, Sean Reese. I've got 3 more pages. I can't get to all 3 of those pages. I also want to recognize someone that I have learned so much from and am certainly indebted to, our former president, Carrie Schuling. She is the recipient of the 2024 Dorothea Lange Pioneer Award, and it's the most prestigious honor presented by the American College of Nurse and Midwives Foundation. The award recognizes exceptional individuals in the field who have exhibited vision, leadership, and innovation. And among many of Carrie's accomplishments, she, as many of you know, co-authors the award-winning textbook Women's Gynecologic Health, which is in the 4th edition, and that says something to get to that 4th edition. So congratulations to Carrie. Mr. Chair, the list could be long. I'm going to stop there. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to highlight just some of the many accomplishments that you all should be proud of. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, President Tessman. Sorry I skipped over you there. It's my fault. Okay, we will now do committee reports, and I would call on Trustee Fatante to give us a report on the Academic Affairs Committee meeting.
The meeting of the Academic Affairs Committee of the Board of Trustees of Northern Michigan University convened at 10:01 a.m. Friday, December 13th, 2024 in the Northern Center, Peninsula 2, by myself. Also present at the meeting were members of the committee, Board of Trustees members, and Academic Affairs Pillar staff. Although trustees were present at the meeting, only the committee members participated in the meeting. The committee received informal reports and presentations on the following: Academic Senate, charter schools, internships, and work experiences. The meeting adjourned at 10:42 a.m.
Thank you, Trustee Fatante, and I would now call on Trustee Hart for a report on the Finance Committee meeting.
The meeting of the Finance Committee of the Board of Trustees of Northern Michigan University convened at 4 p.m. Thursday, December 12th, 2024, in the Peninsula 2 room of the Northern Center by the chair, myself. Also present at the meeting were members of the committee, Board of Trustees members, Finance and Administrative Division staff, and Raymond auditors. Trustee Holmquist was not in attendance due to a prior work commitment. Although members of the Board of Trustees were present at the meeting, only the committee members participated in the meeting. The committee was provided the following informational updates. We received budgets and financial key indicators for December 2024. We also received a status update on the ongoing capital projects. The committee also accepted the written reports of the Internal Audit Issues Report and proposed 2025 audit plan, and the CPB 2023-2024 audit of WNMU TV and WNMU FM financial statements. Lastly, the committee recommended that the board approve projects which were over $250,000, and these are included in the board formals. They were specifically around the design of the Northern Enterprise Center College of Business and the new student housing. Additionally, we approved the temporary liquor licenses. The meeting adjourned at 4:27 p.m.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hart, for that report. We will now move on to the formal recommendations, and I would ask for a motion and a second to approve the formal recommendations.
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Support.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'm sorry, no discussion on this. It's a consent agenda item. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to item 14, which is conflict of interest. And I have to read somewhat of a lengthy statement. I apologize, but I'm told I need to read this in its entirety. The Board of Trustees has a conflict of interest policy stating that when a trustee is an employee of a party with whom the university enters into a contract, Contract needs to be vetted through the secretary of the board, the president, legal counsel, and the board of trustee members. The university has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Upper Peninsula Health Plan, for which Trustee Holmquist serves as the chief executive officer. The MOU provides for the availability of a UPHP community health worker, a CHW, at a university location to counsel students without regard to whether they are a participant in the UPHP plan regarding available medical, mental health, and social services available to them. The MOU does not involve the exchange of funds between the university and UPHP, nor does it inure to the financial benefit of Trustee Holmquist. In addition, the MOU is in the best interest of NMU and the students, as it serves to expand wellness services available to our students. Based on this, the Board of Trustees is comfortable to the extent that any potential conflict exists, it be waived and ratifies execution of the MOU between NMU and UPHP. So what we would need would be a motion to that effect.
Chair Young, I move that this board does not view the MOU that is being considered between NMU and UPHP, for which Trustee Melissa Holmquist serves as Chief Executive Officer, as a conflict of interest, and would be in the best interest of NMU and its students, and that Trustee Holmquist be permitted to abstain from voting on this motion.
Thank you, Trustee Lindberg. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Sepinen. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just a comment, I think it's always good to, that we have the transparency around these things. It's a great thing that's happening, and so.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We, as members will recall, we had a similar situation involving Trustee Toutan, I think, at our last meeting, which we handled in a similar manner, so good point. Any other discussion or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we'll call for a vote, and I would ask Secretary Andrew to take the roll on the motion.
Please indicate with yes or no. Trustee Young,
Yes.
Trustee Hart,
Yes?
Trustee Fatante,
Yes.
Trustee Sepinen,
Yes.
Trustee LaPointe Dunham,
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
Trustee Toutant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0, one abstention with Trustee Holmquist.
Thank you, Secretary Andrew. We'll now move on to item number 15, which is chair and vice chair elections for calendar year 2025. And I would ask for any nominations from the floor.
I move to elect Trustee Stephen E. Young, Chair, and Trustee Melissa A. Holmquist, Vice Chair of the NMU Board of Trustees for the calendar year 2025.
Okay, that's a nomination. And are there any other nominations? Okay.
I'll make the motion then.
Okay, so we'll turn it, and then we'll have a discussion. Is that okay?
Well, I think maybe I would call for a motion and see who wants to formally move, and then maybe second that. I think that's,
Okay.
yeah, if that works. Secretary Andrew?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So hearing that nomination from Trustee Sepinen, so I'd ask for a motion to support the nomination of Trustee Stephen Young as the chair for calendar year 2025, and then Trustee Missy Holmquist as vice chair for calendar year 2025.
And I'll make that a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? No discussion, okay. I would ask Secretary Andrew to please call the roll on the motion.
Please indicate with yes or no. Trustee Young,
Yes.
Trustee Hart,
Yes.
Trustee Fatante,
Yes.
Trustee Sepinen,
Yes?
Trustee Holmquist,
Yes.
Trustee LaPointe Dunham,
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
Trustee Toutant.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
I would like to make a comment, though, right now, and that is that I think the proof is in the pudding. The last number of years that you've been chair. Each year, I think, has been an improvement over the last year. Maybe you're getting better at your job. But I think if we look at the end result of where Northern is positioned right now, we're in a very good spot, and I give you a lot of the credit for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Seppin. I appreciate those words. Trustee Holmquist, would you like to say anything?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm honored to accept the position of vice chair. Serving in this capacity is a privilege and a responsibility that I definitely take to heart. I'm a proud NMU alumnus, also a member of the Marquette community, so my connection to this institution really runs deep. NMU's success has profound personal significance to me, and its impact to the Upper Peninsula cannot be overstated. I had to write down some comments because I wanted to be prepared. So, we have a lot to celebrate. First of all, under the leadership of President Tessman, the university has continued to grow and thrive. President Tessman has been a guiding light for this institution, and I'm continually inspired by your vision and dedication and look forward to working with you. I also want to acknowledge the exceptional faculty and staff who make NMU a place of opportunity and innovation. Their commitment to our students and their success is really unparalleled, and their efforts do not go unnoticed. By continuing to prioritize the needs and aspirations of our students will ensure NMU's continued success and its ability to serve as a vital resource for the Upper Peninsula. So again, I look forward to collaborating with everyone to ensure the bright future we envision for NMU. So thank you for the opportunity, and also big shoes to fill now that we have Trustee Hart serving out her tenure here. So thank you again. And Steve, you made it easy to say yes. So.
Okay. No, glad you did. Any other comments? I would just add that, yes, we're going to miss Alexis. She served as vice chair and in a variety of other committee chairs, and we'll miss your service. Finding a replacement is going to be difficult, but, Missy has stepped up to the plate and will serve as vice chair, and then hopefully move on up to the chair after that period of time, and I'm looking forward to working with you as we continue to move the ball down the field. And I think that, Brock's report he just gave us is, what more could you ask for? That kind of stuff that we're hearing. And so, I just would have to tell you all that for me, it's been a sincere pleasure to be chair. It's something that I have thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm really looking forward to doing it for another year, and I appreciate your vote of confidence in me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will go to item number 16, which is the president's contract, and at this time, I would call on Vice Chair Hart to lead that discussion.
Thank you, Chair Young. Dr. Miyagi earlier talked about preserving the past, and so this is a good segue into how we protect our future. As one of my last acts on the Board of Trustees, I'm really looking forward to putting forward this motion, which is a signal of support for the current leadership that we have under President Brock Tessman. With this motion, I'd like to move that NMU Board of Trustees approve a revision to the First Amendment to the Presidential Employment Agreement to extend the term of the contract for 2 additional years, which would bring the term to end in June 30th of 2029. And to delete the termination fee contained in Article 7, Section B of the agreement. Other than these amendments, the contract remains in full force and effect. With regard to the President's Deferred Compensation Agreement, I would also move that the NMU Board of Trustees approve an amendment to the participation agreement to provide for the following deferred compensation in these amounts. This would be an increase beginning in June 30th, 2025, of an additional $25,000 in deferred compensation. bringing the total to 50,000. There would be an additional increase of 10,000, bringing the total to 60,000 in June 30th, 2026. And $70,000, an additional 10,000 on top of that in the final year of the existing contract, 2027, bringing the total to $70,000 of deferred compensation.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion on that motion?
I'd just like to make a few comments. It's really been a absolute pleasure working with Brock in the, unfortunately, it feels like really short time now that it's ending. There's some fantastic things happening in the university, and we heard a lot of them today, and Missy, you touched on a lot of those things as well. Groundwork has been laid for this for several years. We have an amazing faculty, staff, administration who has brought a lot of these things to culmination. What I think, so I'd love to give you all the credit, Brock, but you know that's not true. But with that, I think having you on the board, there's a definite, as the president, has really transformed, I think, the culture and the style of working, and it's palpable. Even just listening to Tyler earlier about the changes in communication coming down, and then also the avenues that have been created to have that communication come up. I've heard that in so many aspects of the university and the community. And I truly believe that you've enabled that and you've set the tone for that. Your transparency, collaboration, and that collaboration is also marked by inclusivity of all levels, all areas. You're able to connect a lot of dots across the key stakeholders, which is amazing. Your ability to communicate, recognize, and understand that you are only as good as the sum of all your parts, and that's what I really, want to recognize with this motion. Any other comments or discussion?
I look at it slightly different, but come to the exact same conclusion. We got phenomenal faculty and staff, and I see the touch of President Tessman being able to lay the groundwork so that everybody's going in the same direction. And the efficiency of that is evident today with all the reports and everything else that's going on. And that's a magic touch. And I am extremely pleased with his leadership and how his leadership is elevating everybody else along with everybody doing exactly the type of job they're capable of and bringing us to this point where we are today. Phenomenal job. Thank you.
Well said, both of you. Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion, and it's been seconded, and I would ask this time for Secretary Andrew to please do a roll call vote on the motion.
Indicate with your answer, yes or no. Trustee Young.
Yes.
Trustee Hart.
Yes.
Trustee Fatante.
Yes.
Trustee Sepinen.
Yes.
Trustee Holmquist.
Yes.
Trustee LaPointe Dunham.
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg.
Yes.
Trustee Toutant.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you, Secretary Andrew. Go to item number 17, which is our informal session announcement. Call on President Tessman.
Thank you, Chair Young. Just with respect to the last item, I want to say almost to an uncomfortable extent. Hearing those words, it does mean so much coming from this board, whom I enjoy working with quite a bit, and I just feel very recognized, very honored And so glad that what was really, I think, pointed out is that we are 100% a team, and that's this table and the board and myself, but also the people in this room and our faculty, staff, and in fact our students. We are nothing without each other and the way that we work together. And so it's a privilege to be in this role, to be recognized in this way. I think the way that I look at it is that the goals that we have in front of us, and there are many, I mean, continued communication improvements, cultural improvements on campus, investment in our employees, certainly enrollment growth, but thinking about our compass and all of the big projects in the strategic plan, including the Nasanti status goal. That all takes time, and so it's just really inspiring for me to know that I may have a couple of more years in order to pursue with this team those big objectives. So thank you very much. With respect to item 17, I will announce that the NMU Board of Trustees will hold a closed session in conjunction with the Thursday, Friday, February 13th and 14th, 2025 meetings of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, President Tessman. We will now go on to our agenda item 18, which are special recognitions. We got a couple of them here for a couple outgoing trustees, but we also have another one recognizing a former trustee, Tammy Savoy, who's here, who we are giving trustee emeritus status to, and we'll do that after we do these. Tammy, we'll do these, and we'll have you come up for a second. So I will start. I'm going to go up and I'll do Lisa Fatante first. Okay, whereas Lisa Fatante served as a distinguished member of this Board of Trustees from 2017 to 2024, and whereas during her tenure on the board, she served as a member of the Academic Affairs Committee, Finance Committee, Executive Committee, Ad Hoc Policy Review Committee, Ad Hoc Recruitment and Retention Committee, and ex officio of the NMU Foundation Board, and whereas she has been involved and effective leader of Northern, serving as the chair of the Academic Affairs Committee for the past 3 years. And whereas she has continued to support Northern as a longtime donor to the NMU Foundation, is an engaged alumni, and is a champion for students. And whereas she has willingly shared her knowledge and experience by offering wise advice and counsel, keeping the best interests of the university in the forefront, therefore be it resolved that we, her friends and colleagues on the Board of Trustees, commend her for her significant contributions to Northern Michigan University and for her faithful service to the people of this state, and wish her well in all her future endeavors. So Lisa, if you'd come on up, we've got a couple of things for you here. We have a framed copy of what I just read. And Brock, do you want to come on up too? And of course, we have the obligatory Wildcat statue that you're going to get too, which is really cool.
I can't hold that.
And, oh, okay.
Pretty soon.
Thank you. Okay, how am I gonna carry these? Kathy will take it. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, next, we will recognize our other outgoing trustee, that's Alexis Hart, our vice chair. Whereas Alexis M. Hart served as a distinguished member of this board of trustees from 2017 to 2024, and whereas during her tenure on the board, she served as a member of the Academic Affairs Committee, Finance Committee, Extending Learning and Community Engagement Committee, Executive Committee, Ad Hoc Policy Review Committee, Ad Hoc Committee for Indigenous Peoples Day, and ex officio of the NMU Foundation Board. And whereas she has been involved an effective leader for Northern, serving as chair of the Academic Affairs Committee, chair of the Finance Committee, chair of Extended Learning and Community Engagement Committee, chair of the Ad Hoc Policy Review Committee, and vice chair of the board for like the last 2 years, I believe. Whereas she has continued her support Northern as a longtime donor to the foundation and as a champion for students, and whereas she has willingly shared her knowledge and expertise by offering wise advice and counsel, keeping the best interests of the university in the forefront. Therefore, be it resolved that we, her friends, and colleagues on the Board of Trustees commend her for her significant contributions to Northern Michigan University and for her faithful service to the people of the state, and wish her well in all future endeavors. So Alexis, if you'd come up, please. We have a framed copy of the resolution as well for you, and also a Wildcat statue. So come on over.
All right.
Okay, and as I mentioned, we're also recognizing another very important person today, and that's Trustee Tammy Savoy, who's here with us, and Lisa Fatante is actually going to talk a little about you, Tammy, so. Sure. Yeah. And what we're going to do is, while Tammy's coming up, is recognize her for her service. But we also, as you know, have a trustee emeritus plaque that we had made a few years ago, and it's now in the hallway. And when we get done here, right, Kathy, we will go outside and get a picture with Tammy as she puts her plaque in the bigger plaque. So, welcome, Tammy. It's good seeing you and Ken last night.
So I had the pleasure to serve on the NMU Board of Trustees with Tammy Savoy for 6 years. Her energy and enthusiasm, her knowledge, her passion for Northern, her willingness to give so much of her time to the university, to students, and to the community always amazed me. I don't know where she finds the time. She knit my grandson the cutest sweater when he was born 4 years ago. I mean, it was beautiful. And last night she told me she had a box of yarn waiting for her on her porch when she got home. So knitting and along with your job. And one thing also I want to mention is she is the most organized person ever, ever. And since her time off the board, I know she and her husband Ken have been traveling the world. I believe a couple weeks ago they went to London to see a play, Les Mis. I've appreciated the guidance and support she gave me while on the board, and I'm so happy to call her a friend. You see, Kathy gave me that. Tammy M. Savoy has clearly demonstrated the attributes required to receive trustee emeritus status, which is why, on behalf of Northern Michigan University, the NMU Board of Trustees voted to grant her emeritus status on September 20th at the September 20th, 2024 meeting. Tammy served as a distinguished member of the Northern Michigan University Board of Trustees from 2015 through 2022. During her tenure on the board, Tammy was the chair and vice chair of the board, as well as the chair of the Academic Affairs Committee, Finance Committee, Extended Learning and Community Engagement Committee, Executive Committee, the Ad Hoc Policy Review Committee, and the Ad Hoc Committee for Indigenous Peoples Day. She was also a member of the Presidential Search Committee responsible for the hiring of President Tessman. Tammy continues to support Northern as a long-term donor to the NMU Foundation and a mentor to the Student Leader Fellowship Program since its inception. Tammy willingly shares her knowledge by offering wise advice and counsel, keeping the best interest of the university in the forefront. On behalf of the Northern Michigan University Board of Trustees, it is my privilege and pleasure to present Tammy M. Savoy with an engraved plaque in recognition of her distinguished service to Northern Michigan University. As a memento of her trustee emeritus status, she is entitled to all the respect and privilege of the same. I extend our heartfelt thanks for her outstanding service to Northern Michigan University. I want my glasses.
Is that okay for me?
Everybody this way, about
One more.
Okay, and like I said, when we're done with our meeting, we're gonna assemble, and Tammy, if you could stick around for a couple extra minutes, we're gonna get a group shot with her out by the trustee emeritus plaque. And okay, we are now on the good of the order. And we'll start with Vice Chair Hart.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Young. Ooh, I didn't really prepare any remarks, so I'm just going to wing this one. I started to get a little bit emotional a couple of minutes ago, and I think that's a really, positive thing in the sense that, having the opportunity to serve on this board has been such a privilege and an honor for me. I have learned a lot. I have made so many wonderful connections across the university, and when I think back, 8 years ago when I got on the board, it's Lisa and I joined together, and it's been wonderful to have this journey with her. And you weren't quite sure what to expect, how it would go, what the responsibilities would look like. And seeing just the passion and commitment and of the faculty, the staff, the administration, the students, the community in general has just been incredible. I think, leaving this board, I can only wish that I've made some impact to leave it better off than it was before I got here. And I hope I was able to make some of that impact. Again, if I can give back have given back a fraction of what I've gotten, that would make me very, very happy. I want to there's so many people to thank and acknowledge and recognize. So at the risk of sounding like an Academy Award speech, I will try to be brief. I do want to recognize my colleagues on the board who I've had an opportunity to work with many people. It was great, Tammy, that you're here today. I have a lot of people that I've learned from beginning and then also towards the end of my tenure on the board, and I consider you all friends. And this has been a great experience because I think that we've had a lot of great discussion, spirited debate, but we all have a common goal of having the best interests of the university in mind. Steve, I want to thank you too. You will now be the chair for 3 straight years, which is a little bit different. And your leadership, and Greg put it well earlier, that is just indicative of how well things you've steered the ship on the board. So thank you for that. There's some administration here that I've also worked with very closely over the years. Gavin, it's been such a pleasure to work with you. Mike, Brad, Dave. I could thank you all. Kathy, Andrew, who makes sure that we're always buttoned up and where we're supposed to be, and always supportive, so thank you. I'm going to miss a lot here, but I want to conclude by saying I really do feel so good about the direction that the university is headed. I'm very, very happy today to make the motion regarding Brock. I think that the university is in amazing hands from all aspects. And I really look forward to watching the progress. I think about what's been done in 8 years, the physical landscape, the investments all around, and especially in our people. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 8 years. So thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hart. Trustee Fatante.
So unlike Trustee Hart, I have lots of notes. There might be some redundancy if you were at the reception last night, so I apologize. In the last 8 years, the physical campus and the energy at the university have changed so much. I am happy and hopeful in the direction the university is going. Since I've been here, We've dedicated the Bear Center, which in my first year, which I've mentioned several times, that I have 2 grandchildren with autism, so it was very special to me. The woods were completed and dedicated. The new Northern Center was finished and dedicated in September of 2019. COVID, like I said last night, wasn't one of the highlights, but the way that Northern handled the pandemic was phenomenal. The hard work, dedication of the faculty, staff, administration, something to be proud of. The last few years, there's quite a few things that stand out in my mind, highlights. First, the hiring of President Tessman in 2022. I mentioned this last night, the graduation in May of 23 when Jim Haveman, a former trustee and fellow trustee, gave the commencement speech, and there was a flash mob of the faculty and staff singing and dancing to Journey's song, Don't Stop Believing. I just thought that was phenomenal. It was amazing. I loved it. I think I was up there singing along also. Then the remodel and rededication of the Jacobetti Center. That was just beautiful. And the signing of the Okanagan Charter, the opening of the Wellness Center, and bringing the mental and physical health in one building. Another thing I mentioned that was really special, I had never been part or have seen an investiture of a president, and being a part of that I was really proud to be a part of that. The 125th celebration, all that brought, I just thought that was phenomenal. Most recently, of course, the Superior Dome showdown with the basketball game between Michigan State and Tom Izzo. It was amazing. So I'd like to thank the NMU staff, faculty, administration, and students for making the last 8 years a wonderful experience. Also, thank you to my current and former fellow trustees. It's been an honor and a pleasure serving with you. I feel Northern is poised for more great things, and I look forward to its future. I am humbled and proud that I was a part of the university for the last 8 years. Thank you all, and I promise I'll be back.
Thank you, Trustee Fatante. Now call on Trustee Sepinen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to very much miss our 2 trustees, Alexis and Lisa. A little nervous. We have a great team, I think, on the board right now, and we don't know who's going to be the replacements. It's going to be really hard to top what we have. But I am, like them, very excited where we're at, and very, very excited for what's happening tomorrow with commencement and all the students who are leaving this facility to start their new life. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Sepinen. Trustee Holmquist.
I think we'll have a theme here today, but again, I'll be brief. I know we have a busy day, but again, I want to thank both Trustee Fatante and Hart for all of your hard work and dedication to this university. Trustee Fatante was my first phone call when I came on the board, and so really supportive. And Trustee Hart, I met the day they made the announcement that I was on the board, and she said, it's going to be great. And so I can't say also personally how wonderful it's been to work alongside you and learn from you. And again, thank you so much for your service. And like Greg, we'll see, looking forward to finding out who else is going to be joining us. They do have big shoes to fill. But again, excited for our future, where we're headed here at NMU. And I used to, when I first joined the board, I was like, I don't know about sitting at commencement it's not the shortest event. And now it's one of the things I look forward to the most. I think to see the students come up and complete their degree and the excitement. So it's actually something now I really look forward to. Excited to see Susanna, the student speaker, again, I'd have to say is my favorite part of commencement as well. So congratulations to all of our graduates, and happy holidays, and thank you both.
Thank you, Trustee Holmquist. Trustee Bridget LaPointe Dunham.
Just another great couple days of meetings. Always super impressed. Was very happy to see the nursing lab. Hopefully we can talk about some partnerships in tribal health and getting some nurses there because we have a shortage as well. But I'm still reeling from this morning's presentation. Just really excited where Northern's going. Thank you, NU, for your knowledge and leadership in my short time here. I hope we can stay in touch.
Thank you. I would echo too, that engagement day process is always fun to be a part of. And we get a chance to see where the rubber meets the road, and that's always so very encouraging. You know, I would not have guessed when I started that there would be this kind of unique bonding piece that arises from being a part of this group. And so both Alexis and Lisa, your kindness and support has been overwhelming. I'm gonna miss you. And so I'm glad that we'll be able to stay in touch. You know, I do want to also say thank you to Tammy Savoy. A lot of people don't realize how many people she helps with her work with nonprofit entities. And I've had the good fortune, Tammy, of knowing you and working with you for a lot of years, and just so thankful for the emeritus honor that is bestowed upon you. And I think, as it was mentioned in the decree, wise counsel. You've provided wise counsel, Alexis, Lisa, Tammy, and that's the theme of kind of what this group is in terms of being able to trust each other and to be able to talk through things and how we set a course collectively. So again, I really enjoy working with everybody, and these are always very enriching days that we get to spend together. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Toutant. Trustee Lindberg.
Well, the pleasure of getting to go last is I can just usually say pretty much ditto, but you know, I always look forward to these board meetings, even though they're long days, and always the highlight is, for me, is when we get to interact with our students and the wonderful staff that we have on this campus. And again, it was no exception. I mean, the nursing students and that program over there and their staff, I mean, it was just outstanding. Also enjoyed getting to see more about Mike Bass's little realm over there, and that was very interesting. And thank you, Mike. Safety is such an important issue on every campus in this country, and I think you just do an outstanding job. To my colleagues, you know, when you're last, people take words right out of your mouth. Your wise counsel has been most appreciated. You know, you come on a board, you're brand new, this huge institution with so many different moving parts, and the both of you have been so instrumental in helping me start to get a grasp on all the things that are going on, and both of you for your commitment to Northern. I know that it's heartfelt, and I'm going to miss you, both of you, and I hope that you come back and visit us often. But it's been a wonderful 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lindberg, and do a little batting cleanup here as I normally do, but I would just echo, you know, certainly miss Alexis and Lisa, and we talked last night at the ceremony and shared a lot of our thoughts about that. You will be missed, and don't be strangers. And I hope you'll come back and see us as much as you can. And I would also point out, you know, we all stand on the shoulders of those that came before us or went before us. And Tammy, you know, can't say enough about you as not just a member of this board, but as a person in all that you've done for this university. Can't think of anybody that's more deserving of emeritus status than you. And, you know, you were a mentor to me when I was coming up through the ranks, and I had a great teacher. So thank you for all you've done to help me, but also this university as well. So appreciate that very much. And just a couple other thank yous that I would like to make. I'd like to thank the board again for their confidence in where we're heading and the leadership that is involved with that. I don't take that lightly. I take it very, very seriously, and it means a lot to me. And we're going to keep hitting it hard again in 2025. I also want to thank Brock You know, Brock, you've been, you're the right guy for the right time. And it was interesting how you look back on things. And Tammy, you were certainly part of this. You look back in the process we got that brought you to sit at this table today, and it was an amazing process. And obviously, we made that right decision. And I can't thank you enough. And Kristen, both of you are a team. You're a very dynamic team, and we're lucky to have you here putting down roots in Marquette. And we hope those roots keep getting bigger and deeper. And then finally, there's also somebody here I need to thank you, say thanks to, and that's Tricia, my wife in the back there, sitting next to Marty. Being chair is, to some extent, it is a little bit more work than serving on the board, but she does put up with a lot of phone calls that come in and texts and emails when we're traveling, and she's been a real trooper and very supportive of this, and I love you, and she's probably my biggest fan, I think. Is it still I haven't checked this morning, but as far as I know, so. But anyways, thanks for being here, and she's going to spend some time up here for the next couple of days and go to some of the events. So with that, there being no further business to come before this board, we stand adjourned at 12:11.